Good evening, everybody. It's 7 o'clock, so we'll get started. If we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Is it on?
No, it's on now.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Check to see if your mic is on, everybody.
Our mic working now? I think you turned it off.
I turned it on.
Hang on.
I turned it on.
Okay. Can everybody hear me okay out there?
No, they're not on.
They're not on?
It says they're on.
Tom's working on it.
Hang on. Can you hear me now?
There we
it
go.
goes.
Yep.
That's the other switch. Okay, good
sounds like an
evening, everybody. And I know there's millions of Americans watching us tonight, so we want to say hello to everybody out there. Before we get started, there's two items on the agenda we want to get some clarification on, so I'm going to ask Michael Schostak, our Township Treasurer, just to explain the SADs.
Thanks, Mike. So for items number 6 and 7 regarding the Bloomfield Village SADs, tonight the board is just considering whether to set the public hearing, and if we choose to, which might happen. So we set the public hearing for January. At that time, we expect to get all the feedback regarding the projects. You're still welcome to make public comment tonight, but the only issue that we will be considering tonight is whether to set a public hearing, and then at that time we will consider the SADs.
Okay, thank you. And so now we'll open up the microphone for public comment. If you have something to bring to the board, just step at that first microphone and introduce your name, address, and your issue, please.
Good evening. Jay Shaw, 3842 Wabi Lake Drive. I'm speaking in behalf of the North Wabi community and in support of the agenda item 9, Safety Path Master Plan. We thank Engineering Director Almas for evaluating our request and including the path along Wabi Drive that extends existing paths in the Wabi South and connects with the Long Lake Road path. We are happy that Supervisor McCready was in attendance at August board meeting and listened to our request. We want to thank Clerk Brook for his guidance in enabling us to get 100+ signatures for our petition. We support Trustee Barnett's top goal of improving timeline of the safety path projects. It is important for the citizens to see and enjoy our millage dollar at work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Gail Blitz, and I live at 3810 Wabi Lake Drive East. Actually, Jay and I are neighbors. We serve on the board together in the condominium association. And I just wanted to talk a little bit to a sense of urgency for getting the project put through for a couple of reasons. We've had a couple of minor accidents. The kids have to wait in the street for the bus in the morning, and especially when there's snow or the weather is bad, the moms tend to come and make a half circle with their cars to protect the kids from getting hit. We have a pretty nice wide street, and people kind of take advantage of that by driving through too quickly. We've had speed analysis done, and most cars were, what, Jay? We had quite a percentage of cars that come through there at more than 35 miles an hour. A lot of walkers and a lot of dog walkers, and I'm very observant of that because I train dogs, and most people do not have their dogs under control even though they're on a leash. So if a car comes through pretty quick and you're not thinking ahead and prepared, I've seen a lot of near misses with the dogs and a lot of near misses with people. Sometimes they're with a friend, they're talking, and they don't realize cars coming up behind them. So I hope that this will be done quickly. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Susan Brody, 3807 Wabi Lake Drive West, part of the sidewalk and street issue. I saw the engineering plan, the city engineering plan, and I see that there are routes marked along the Telegraph and Long Lake Road area, and we happen to be the only residential area right now under consideration. I hope that this is not an either-or situation, that it's not just the Telegraph Road and the more public spaces that are under consideration, that you will consider the residents who live here and are your taxpayers and supporters. And I understand the public safety issue of all of them, both the public area, the public access, where buses and cars fly up and down Telegraph at 50 miles an hour, but cars and buses fly down our subdivision at 50 miles an hour too. Not the official estimate, just observation, and people flinging 5 fingers and 4 fingers at them as they do. So the value of a life is just as important when you're in a subdivision as when people are using public access and public roads. And I just hope that you will consider the value of the residents' lives in this particular tiny but profitable subdivision, as well as the people that we want to take care of on the streets by Target and Long Lake. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for the trustees for this opportunity to come speak. My name is Christina Stafford, and I'm here joined with my co-president, Joe Young. We are the co-presidents of our homeowners association of the Birmingham Farms neighborhood. We're located between 15 and 14 Mile and Telegraph and Wing Lake. Thank you to trustees Valerie Murray and Chris Kalinsky for responding to our email that we had sent expressing firm opposition to the proposed Robertson Brothers Homes development on Telegraph Road, located between Temple Bethel and Cedar Brook Drive. At the November 25th Board of Trustees meeting, Joe and I expressed our concerns regarding this proposal for a number of reasons, which I will reiterate for everyone here today. First and foremost, this proposed development raises serious environmental outcomes or concerns. The impact of this high density of homes, 38 homes, planned for a small area could result in significant ecological disruption, particularly to the area's underground aquifers. I can attest, as a resident of the neighborhood, that we have frequent water challenges and flooding that plague our neighborhood due to insufficient infrastructure and a high water table. An increase in housing demand only amplifies these issues. Secondly, valued residents along Cedar Brook, Glen Grove, and White Pine Drive, and quite frankly, the majority of our neighborhood, will be negatively impacted by this proposed development, including air pollution, displaced wildlife, and decreased quality of life brought by prolonged construction. Third, and most importantly, the township is yet again prioritizing profit over quality of life for current Bloomfield Township residents as green space in our community continues to dwindle. As we stated in our previous letter and at the last meeting, we believe that the recently extended Oakland County Parks millage funding should be allocated to transform this 13 acres of land into a community park that would enhance current residents' lives and add value to the tax-paying residents of our community. Why do our tax dollars pay for increased county parks millage when we receive very little benefit in Bloomfield Township compared to surrounding areas? We look forward to expressing these concerns again in the future, and thank you again for the opportunity to speak tonight.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Violet Deshner, and I live on 6924 Cedar Brook Drive, and I'm here to talk about the proposed subdivision being built on north of 14 Mile off of Telegraph, behind my house where the woods are. The township is not providing any green space like parks for us to use. I think we should put a useful community area there. Bloomfield Township doesn't need more houses, we need more parks. Think about how just not a few people have to use that space. We can build a useful place for everyone that everyone can use, not just a few people. Have you ever thought about the residents who are living here and how annoying it is to hear construction every day in a place they can't even use? There are ways that the township can make money to build a park. I believe that we should put a park there so everyone can use it. How would you like it if you were hearing construction constantly behind your house? The woods help us not to have to hear telegraph every day, and now that you're getting rid of a perfectly nice woods that can be turned into a park for everyone, you're now turning it into condos that are going to be worth more than a house. We should be doing something good for the community, not crowding people into a small space just to make more money. It's healthier for kids like me to be surrounded by nature rather than surrounded by buildings. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Melissa Goldberg, 6967 Cedar Brook. They're neighbors. I'm here to talk about the right turn lane, the disappearing lane on Telegraph, just south of Andiamo between 15 and 14. I've lived in that neighborhood for 50 years. I think we're probably the longest residents in Birmingham Farms. I risk my life every single day. I don't know why. What needs to be done to have yellow lines painted to make it obvious that it's a disappearing lane? People wait until the very last minute. I turn my turn signal on at Andiamo to turn onto Cedar Brook, and people still wait till that very last minute. I was tempted to do it in the middle of the night myself. Simply paint some yellow stripes so it's not risking my life to come home every day. And it doesn't matter what time of day it is. That's all.
Great. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Sylvia Hagan. I live at 6934 Cedar Brook Drive, which is in Birmingham Farms, on the southwest corner of the subdivision, southeast corner, sorry. I'd like to further address the aquifers, that this is a very, very real problem. I purchased my home from the builder that built it over 40 years ago, 50 years ago. He built it with a basement on the plans, which are recorded in Bloomfield Township. The aquifer environmental engineering study he did before the property was built made him realize he could not put in a basement. I have probably the only colonial without a basement on a slab in the township. This is not just my house, but and you can hear it when you go to the corner and listen to the grate. It runs all the time, and it runs fast. The house across the street from me is on a slab, but they also had a lot of water problems. Had to end up putting in French drains and a whole bunch of other problems because they're on the direct water aquifer too. And the house next door has a shortened basement. It doesn't have a full basement, and it's on a big colonial too. And the lot next to that was pretty much unbuildable because the aquifer. And I bought the house from the builder, and he told me the story of it. So, you know, he wasn't trying to cut corners or anything in building his house because he lived there for 15 years. I just want the township to know, the board of whoever looks at this, to know about this, because if there's a dense population community built adjacent to this, I believe it would seriously impact the aquifer. And if it impacts the aquifer, it's going to impact our homes. And this is a preventable, knowledgeable problem. We need to address it before it becomes a problem. The other thing I have on the same topic of the development next door is that Bloomfield Township sent out a very nice survey. And in the survey, they asked all the residents what they wanted for the township and what they wanted in its future. One of the main things that was listed was a park. We have no park in our township. And this is an affluent, upscale community with no park. We've had to take our children and our grandchildren to all the neighboring communities, which all have a park, but there's no place for us to socialize, have a picnic with our families, let the children play with people they know, that are in the subdivision.
Ms. Hagan, can you wrap it up, please?
Okay? Okay, in the spirit of actually listening to the desires of the citizens, I believe a park is a better use of the 13 acres vacant land. Vacant land is getting short, and it's a big chunk of land that we can do a park. And again, the funds are available for the building a park.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Hi, I'm Jeanette Phillips, 6385 Hills Drive. I'm not in the Cedar Brook neighborhood. I'm here to just talk about the safety paths. Number one, thank you all for putting in the path on Losser between Maple and Corton on the west side of the road. I ride my bike all the time, and I'm so happy that that is there. I don't have to cross the street. I can ride the whole circuit from my house, Maple, Telegraph, Corton, down Losser, back home. With one small exception, on the little turnaround at Maple, which Chris Kalinsky and Val Marie are familiar with. And so I think it's on the master plan, and I'm really praying that you guys approve that little 25 feet. So thank you for the Losser. Thank you in advance, hopefully, for that little cutaway. And then I'm also the person who came and spoke when Oakland Hills Country Club provided their big master plan last September. And I was speaking because the safety path on Gilbert Lake Road that is, I guess technically on their property on the north course, they promised to clean that up and make it look better. And anyway, I remember the conversation with Neil was here, and Leo Savoy promised that that would be cleaned up. They cut 1 or 2 trees. Anyway, bottom line, they did not clean it up. I'm very disappointed because they're spending $150 million, whatever that amount is, on the property. You've approved that, obviously. They do not pay property taxes because they're a nonprofit. And all I'm asking is for them to clean up the fence line. It's just, I would like the facing Gilbert Lake Road part of the fence to look at least 50% as nice as whatever it is that looks on their side, on the country club side. So I just want to remind you of that commentary that night, and the fact that, in my opinion, president of that neighborhood, they haven't done the job. But thank you for Losser Road.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. My name is Joe Buick. I'm at 4536 Brightmoor. I'm here tonight for item 14, the alternate position of the ZBA. I put my hat into the, or put my whatever into the ring for this position. I have experience with the City of Monroe, 29 years, chairman of the Planning Commission, Planning Commissioner, and I love this community, and I'd love to participate if I can and serve. I'm in Precinct 9. Brightmoor is just across Telegraph there. So thank you, trustees, stakeholders, Mr. Supervisor. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
I just found out I'm in the right place. I guess the people have already spoken. I'm looking for somebody I know, and I don't know anybody. I think they've already spoken. Oh, here's another one. But on Waubee Lake Drive East, we're looking for a sidewalk. We're hoping we can get a sidewalk completed because there's been a lot of dangerous things that have happened. And I'll just give you a story of what happened to me yesterday morning. I pulled out of our driveway area and onto Waubee Lake Drive East. There was a person walking on the street with his dog. I don't know who it was. It came from someplace in our area. Probably from me to here is where the dog was. So he had one whole lane to himself. There's a second lane for a second car to go. So I had to go on the opposite side of the street to get by him. I went on the opposite side of the street. Guess what? Somebody comes down the opposite direction. I don't know what he was doing, but he wasn't thinking. But he was coming straight at me. And I realized I had to slam on my brakes to miss the guy on the road and to miss him. And that's how we would like to have a sidewalk where people can walk on, take their dogs, kids ride their bicycles, and stand there waiting for school buses in the morning. That's what I live. My name is John Campbell, by the way, and I'm at 3882 Wabeek Lake Drive East, and we'd love to see a sidewalk there. We've been looking forward to this for the last 6 months. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Good evening. Eric Phillips, 7174 Glen Grove Drive in the Bingham Farms neighborhood. Just wanted to make sure I stood up as a matter of record and support our co-presidents in the opposition to the development that is being proposed for the 13 acres on Telegraph. So I don't have anything further to add to what they've stated, but I want to echo the concerns that have previously been stated.
Thank you.
Good evening. Andrea Sievers. I'm at 6545 Red Maple Lane. While we're handing out some thank yous, thank you if it was you guys that cleaned up those apple things on the sidewalk between Maple and Lincoln, because we're always twisting our ankles on those. But I'm actually here for, I think it's agenda 7 or 8, I think there weren't any more printouts, for the Luz drainage relief project extension, all those keywords. So you'll obviously see that in the presentation a lot of kind of what had happened, and I think you're all familiar with it, but a quick recap. We bought the lot and started building, and it was during the build process that we discovered the lot actually takes a tremendous amount of water on. We worked with an engineer to get a drainage plan in place, which cost us about $60,000 that we didn't plan on spending. We were told it was enough for a subdivision, but that was what the engineer said was needed. There were 12-inch pipes. It seemed like overkill. However, after installing that, we continued to experience flooding events. Over the course of 3 years, it was 4 flooding events, one of which was 2 weeks after we moved into our brand new home in the finished basement. Another one was so intense with the volume of water that it actually pushed the 3-panel patio door into the home, causing it to collapse. So it has been a long road. Throughout this journey, we have been working with the township. We brought this to the board before, and it was decided that it was going to be considered as a kind of looking at the drainage in the township as a whole, which was a little bit deflating. And so I've worked with Corey on this again. And basically the main thing I want to tell you guys is there's really nothing more we can legally do to solve this problem. In working with the township, we discovered that there's actually a 12-inch pipe that literally discharges water from Maple Road and north of Maple Road onto our neighbor's lot, which then comes to our lot. The engineer was not aware of this when he built the plan. He didn't think that we would be covering drainage from north of Maple Road. So that 12-inch pipes that we installed all around our lot are obviously not doing the job because we're taking on more water than we should be. So I'm just here to tell you what it's like. I mean, I know there's plenty of problems in the world, but we literally set alarms for 3 in the morning on nights that it's going to rain even moderately, especially heavily, my husband and I, so that we can make sure the basement doesn't flood again. And one night, by a miracle of God, I woke up by about an inch before it came into our home. So, I mean, if I try to plan a vacation, I have to consider whether it's rainy season here. I mean, it's crazy, and if somebody can go look on the house. So I beg of you to please look at this, please approve it. The neighbors are all in support of this. I don't know if some of them could be here tonight, but I've shown them pictures. I know you guys have seen the pictures. But please, there's really nothing more we can do. So I just beg of you to help me sleep better at night when it rains. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Nick Petruccia. I live at 6998 Sandalwood Drive in the Birmingham Farms neighborhood. I live directly across the street from the proposed new Robertson Home construction plan. And I echo all of the statements previously made by the other neighbors that have shown up today. Me and my fiance moved to this neighborhood a couple years ago with the goal of hopefully starting a family one day. That was a big draw of us coming back to this area where we both grew up. The removal of the green space in the neighborhood will have serious consequences like increased pollution and frankly a lack of protection from Telegraph Road, amongst the other things I've mentioned today, like the aquifers. Those are the type of things that are going to impact people staying in this area and in the neighborhood, as well as other young people like us moving into this community. So we strongly oppose the proposed construction plan and support maintaining green space for a park that was mentioned that will actually benefit the neighborhood and our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Gino Demena. I reside at 6550 Red Maple Lane and represent 6540 and 6530 Red Maple Lane as well. Ms. Severs was very thorough, so I just wanted to state that I can attest to everything she's saying as to being truthful and factual. The street is in need of some drainage. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, if that ends public comment, we'll close. If there's anybody else want to make a public comment before we close the microphone? Okay, thank you for your comments. And just to clarify, the one speaker talked about Oakland Hills doesn't pay property taxes. They do pay property taxes. They're assessed as at every other business. And they're going to look at a big assessment with this new clubhouse. So we will talk to them about the safety path on the north course to find out what the issue is there and get it cleared up. Okay, thank you. So the next item on the agenda is the approval of board minutes of the November 25th board meeting.
So moved.
Second?
Support.
Support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes. Thank you. Okay. Next item is the approve the board minutes from our special meeting on December 2nd.
Support. Motion.
Motion, support. Support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Thank you. Okay. And now we have a special,
Well, the closed session minutes.
one more session minute. What did I, oh, number 4, approve the closed session board minutes of December 2nd.
So moved.
Support.
I'll support this one.
All in favor?
I've got a quote, point of clarification I'd like to make, and I'm addressing to the township attorney.
Sure.
Since I was not present in the meeting, is it appropriate to abstain at this time?
You can abstain, but you don't have to be present at a meeting to approve minutes, so you could also approve the minutes.
But I wouldn't know what happened.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we had motion and support, and all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Abstain.
Abstain. Mark abstain, and any opposed? Okay, so we're done with that. Now we get to our special event for this evening, and to recognize our former supervisor, Dani Walsh. Michael?
Great. So I'm going to go down here. Dani, you want to join me? That's good. Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, Dani and I were elected together in 2016 for our first terms as trustees. We sat next to each other over there in the corner and worked hard that first 4 years to learn and get up to speed with everything going on with the township. And I think we got along pretty well and worked pretty well together. And as you know, Dani was elected supervisor in 2020. I was reelected as a trustee. And then when I was appointed treasurer last year, we were able to work together very closely for a year every day. Trustees are part-time, but working into the administration, it was great. And I got to see just how big of a heart you have. And so I'm so happy to present you with this proclamation on behalf of the board, and I'm going to read it out for everybody. The proclamation in honor of Dani Walsh. Whereas the Bloomfield Township Board of Trustees adopts this proclamation to honor Dani Walsh for her 8 years of distinguished service to our community And whereas Dani Walsh's service to Bloomfield Township began in 2016 with her election as a Bloomfield Township trustee, and whereas as trustee, Dani studied the details of each matter before the board and was an outspoken representative in protection of the residents' interests. And whereas Dani was elected Township Supervisor on November 3rd, 2020, in the midst of a crippling pandemic that was wreaking havoc on municipal governments. And whereas, as Supervisor, Dani successfully steered the township through the COVID crisis, balancing the health and welfare of residents and employees with empathy and care. And whereas Dani was the champion of the recently adopted 5-year strategic plan that charts a course for Bloomfield Township to strive for even greater excellence. And whereas Dani approached each task with her indefatigable spirit, working tirelessly with for the residents, often being available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, sometimes when you wanted to and sometimes when you didn't want to. But you were available for the residents, there's no doubt about that. Whereas Dani worked diligently to earn master's degrees in both public policy and public administration during her tenure as supervisor, recognizing that furthering her formal education would make her a better administrator and leader. Whereas Dani's passion for public service was evident to all who worked with her or came in contact with her. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the members of the Board of Trustees, and indeed all residents of Bloomfield Township, honor Dani Walsh for her 8 years of service to our community and express sincere gratitude for her innumerable contributions to the vitality and exceptional nature of Bloomfield Township. Be it known to all reading this proclamation that it was adopted by the Bloomfield Township Board of Trustees at its regular meeting on Monday, December 9th, 2024, and included in the minutes as a permanent record thereof. So, Mr. Supervisor, I move that we adopt this proclamation.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved.
Aye. Okay. Do you want to support?
I'll give the support.
You support? Okay. Now, I can open it up here. Oops. I used Scotch tape because I thought it'd be easier to open, and it is not. Oops. Well, it's just a box. Okay, here we go. Is there anyone here from cable? I asked for somebody. Okay. Someone want to? Everyone wants to take a picture?
On the cable, right
Okay.
Go.
All right, so here is your proclamation, and we are very pleased to present this to you. Thank you for your service. She wants to say a quick word?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
I just want to thank not just Michael for always writing amazing words. You are quite eloquent, and he made me a better person over the last 8 years, because you're right, sitting over there, we were pretty green.
Yeah.
So I just want to thank you. But I want to thank all of you for your call to service, and I know you'll do great. And I, as a resident, look forward to living near where you're talking about today. I live near that area as well, and I hope that was one of the areas that in the strategic plan we had targeted as a park. So I want to throw my hat in the ring as a resident of, I agree, but I know working with so many of you has been wonderful. Thank you to the residents for always being there. And now as a resident, I can just look forward to enjoying life in Bloomfield Township.
That's right.
But thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 6, consider approval of a resolution to accept a petition to create a special assessment district, SAD, for road improvement project in Bloomfield Village, the Gold Phase, and schedule the first public hearing of necessity for Monday, January the 13th, 2025 at 7 p.m. Jennifer?
Thank you all. Okay, we're going to get started tonight with, let's get it going the right way. We're going to start with what we call Phase 3, or the gold phase of the Bloomfield Village Road SAD proposed road paving project. This is our request to approve the petition and move forward with scheduling their first public hearing. The village was split into 5 phases, so again, this is going to be the 3rd phase, or what we call the gold phase. It is located just north of Maple Road in the southern part of Bloomfield Village. It consists of Judson Bradway's Bloomfield Village subdivision, as well as Judson Bradway Bloomfield Village number 1 subdivision. The project consists of 2.09 miles of public road, which includes Morning View Terrace, Hamilton Road, Overhill Road, Clifton Road, Bradway Boulevard South, Williamsbury Road North, Glengarry Road North, Cranbrook Cross Road North, Chewton Cross, and Chewton Road South. And I will kind of clarify, Bradway Boulevard itself is not in this SAD. We have addresses that are on Bradway Boulevard that are included, which is why that's listed. The project consists of pulverizing the existing road and placing new asphalt pavement 4 inches thick over the aggregate base with full depth cold milling asphalt removal. It is a total curb and gutter removal and replacement with total under drain installation with sodded shoulders. Minor drainage improvements will be made to reasonably assure drainage of the pavement. All shoulders in disturbed areas will be covered with topsoil and sod. A maximum 5-foot approach will be constructed to existing driveways to provide smooth transition from the newly paved roadway where necessary. I've included some pictures just that I was able to get from around the subdivision within the different areas that are going to be repaved. You can see it's in pretty bad shape. These are just throughout some of the different roads that are included. This picture kind of demonstrates nicely. You'll see on the picture on the right a transition from Bradway onto the one of the newly paved phases, and you can see how nice those turned out. And again, the picture on the right in the far distance there, you can kind of get a glimpse of one of the new sections that's recently been repaved. And then these are some examples from phase 1 and 2 of the project, just so you can kind of see where we were and where we're trying to get to. So the petition's been confirmed by the Township Assessor. It was supported by 52% of the homeowners, representing 53.77% of the road frontage for the project. Estimated project cost is $7,565,100. There are 150 parcels in this SAD, and all 150 parcels are being assessed a full unit of benefit, which breaks down to $50,434 per unit of benefit or per parcel. Tonight, we are requesting that you accept the petition, approve our resolution to create SAD number 428, and to schedule a public hearing of necessity for January 13th, 2025. Any questions?
Any questions?
No, I'd just like to make a comment. Appreciate you getting this across the line. I know it's a lot of work, and the residents there really have been wanting this. They're really happy with what phase 1 and phase 2 have come out. It's hard during the construction phase, it really is. But when you see the before and after right next to each other, you see why we need to get this done. So thank you for all the hard work, and I know it's a lot.
Absolutely.
I do have a question about the assessments and the per unit basis. There were several residents during the previous phase that were concerned about larger parcels getting a larger benefit, corner lots as well. And when I'm looking at the image that you displayed previously with the gold section, lot 400, lot 500, lot 580, the corner lots, they have a lot more frontage. And how are we going to address those concerns that were from some of the residents? And some of the lots like 422, 412, 411, those frontages are significantly smaller.
There's 2 different ways that you can handle SADs for roads, and it's based on a front foot or it's based on a unit of benefit, and the township stance has been that we accept a unit of benefit. We do typically advise anybody who comes to us with inquiries about an SAD that if they chose to go through the road commission uses a frontage foot, and our policy was used to use a unit of benefit. with the understanding that the residents within that community are all getting a unit of benefit of the roads being redone. So that's the stance that our policy has taken, is we use the unit of benefit. I do always fully advise people who come to us at the very beginning of the two different options. The road commission does use a front foot, we use a unit of benefit.
Any other questions? Any other questions? Let's have it in there.
No, just thank you. Again, great presentation. And I went to the ribbon cutting for the previous sections, and to stand there and see, you know, how beautiful it turned out. It was really great. Thank you.
We can stop that.
Tom's working on it.
Just give us a second here.
Okay.
There we go.
Thank you for the presentation.
Okay, we'd like to make a motion to approve.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we set January 13th, 2025 as the first public hearing of necessity for the SAD.
Support.
Support.
And also adopt resolution number 1.
And adopt resolution number 1.
Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes. All right, number 7, consider approval of a resolution to accept petition to create a special assessment district, SAD, for road improvement project in Bloomfield Village, yellow phase, and schedule the first public hearing of necessity for Monday, January 13th, 2025 at 7 p.m. Jennifer?
All right. So look a little similar. So we have Bloomfield Village Phase 4, which is our yellow phase, proposing a road paving SAD. So here's a map, again, of the 5 phases. Yellow is going to be just south of Corton at the north part of the village. This section includes part of Judson Bradway's Bloomfield Village number 2, part of Judson Bradway Bloomfield Village number 9, part of Judson Bradway's Bloomfield Village number 10, all of Judson Bradway's Bloomfield Village number 11, Judson Bradway's Bloomfield Village number 12, as well as Red Oaks of Bloomfield Village subdivision. We're looking at 2.05 miles of public road, which includes Sandringham Way, Hemsworth Court, Courtly Terrace, Aberdovey Place, Twin Maples Lane, North Glengarry Road, East Glengarry Circle, Indian Mound West, Indian Mound East, Covington Road, Indian Mound West once again, just in case we needed to reconfirm that, Indian Mound Road, Indian Mound Trail, and Indian Mound South. Again, the project consists of pulverizing the existing road and placing new asphalt pavement 4 inches thick over the aggregate base with a full depth cold milling asphalt removal, total curb and gutter removal and replacement, total under drain installation with sodded shoulders. Minor drainage improvements will be made to reasonably assure drainage of the pavement, and all shoulders and disturbed areas will be covered with topsoil and sod. A maximum 5-foot approach will be constructed to existing driveways to provide smooth transitions from the newly paved roadway where necessary. Again, here's a few pictures that we grabbed from this area. And here's a couple, again, of the new phases and what we're working towards. The petition has been confirmed by the Township Assessor. The 4th phase is supported by 56.01% of the homeowners, representing 54.30% of the roadway frontage. Estimated project cost is $8,353,116.15. There are 152 parcels in this SAD, with 151 being assessed. There is a drainage basin that is located in here, and that will not receive an assessment. So we're looking at a tentative assessment amount of $55,318.65 per full unit of benefit. Tonight, we're asking that you accept the petition, that you approve resolution to create SAD number 429, and that we schedule a public hearing and necessity for January 13th of 2025.
All right, thank you, Jennifer. I'm glad we got 15 cents in there to help
That's
get us
right.
over the top, huh?
That's right.
Any comments or questions from the board? If not, I'll take a motion.
Make a motion that we approve resolution to create SAD number 429 and set it for scheduled public hearing of necessity for January 13th, 2025.
Support.
Okay, any more comments? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it passes. Thank you, Jennifer. All right, item number 8, reconsideration of petition to the Lutz Relief Drainage Board of Drain Extension presented by Corey. Corey, are you, oh, there you are. Hey, Corey.
Hey, how are you? Good evening, Board. At the Board of Trustees meeting on April 25, 2022, the Board was asked to consider approving the petition for the Luz Relief Drainage Board for a drain extension. The proposed Luz Relief Drain extension is to address the flooding on private property from upstream land, including Maple Road. So the Luz Relief Drain was established and constructed in the 1970s and operated and maintained by the Oakland County Water Resources Commissioner's Office on behalf of the Drainage Board. As the resident was describing, and what we're showing here is the existing flow path that comes, you see the blue line crossing Maple Road that encompasses the runoff from the north side of Maple through a culvert that discharges directly onto the property of 6521 Red Maple Lane. And it also shows, just basically simplistically there, the blue line that indicates the flow coming off of Maple Road and discharging onto or flowing onto Red Maple Lane, and again onto the property just to the south of 6521 and 6545 through their rear yard and back out onto Red Maple Lane and towards Losser Road. So the history of the drainage and road complaints dates back to 2001, and we've received multiple complaints through that period of time, and we just wanted to show that this is not something that's new or since the rain event in 2021. This has been ongoing over the course of 2 decades and more. So here's a photo of what's occurring, and this is these are recent photos of what's occurring in the rear yard of 6545 Red Maple, looking north towards Maple Road. You can see on the left side there, outlined in the black, of the area of what this is showing in the photos. Again, this is the photo of the breaching swale and washing away of landscaping and sod. I think the photos themselves are pretty impactful. And again, this is the runoff coming off of Maple and onto Red Maple Lane, causing the erosion along the shoulder of the road and washing out onto the end of the front of the lawns. Here's a photo of the homeowners at 6545, and that was a privately installed part of the $60,000 storm drainage improvements that the runoff from Red Maple Lane, stemming from Maple Road, is going over the riprap check dams there, just on the north side, going around the Beehive catch basin and back into the rear yard of the property. I also want to show that they've had to install, the homeowners there, residents have had to install additional riprap and brick to help support that washout that's coming from Red Maple Lane and undermining their concrete driveway. Here's a photo of where the culvert underneath Maple Road is discharging and flowing through that vegetation and into the rear yards on Red Maple Lane. And then this is the photo looking easterly towards Losser, the front yards and the standing water in the road. And again, this isn't from a significant rain event. This is just from a average rain event. So in 2013, the Dan Devine drain was established as a Chapter 20 drain that included the Amy drain and the Dan Devine drain, and it shows the limits of this. And the point of these are, this is nothing new to the township. Again, in 2026, the Hamlin extension drain was included or defined as a Chapter 20 drain or accepted as a Chapter 20 drain. So back in April 25 of 2022, the board wanted some further evaluation of drainage problems throughout the township. These were the 5 known locations with historic drainage issues that staff has recently investigated, and these are the reasons of what makes Red Maple Lane unique. So, reading through this, this area is already located in an established drainage district. We are not creating a new one. We are essentially completing the extension of the storm sewer that should have been done when the original construction of the Luz drain was completed. There was never an established conveyance channel for the drainage to travel in this location, whereas in other areas of the township that are experiencing reoccurring flooding, there is drain or storm sewer meant to convey the water that is not being maintained or becomes overwhelmed if the rain event is large enough. Number 3 is there's already a solution in place for this project. The township has the funding available through the Drains at Large Fund to pay for the township's appropriated cost for the project in full. There's already buy-in from Oakland County Water Resource Commission to implement this project. Number 6, this location does experience recurring flooding. The 2021 flooding was not an isolated event. Nothing associated with new construction at 6545 Red Maple Lane in 2020 exacerbated the issue. Had the current owners occupied the existing house on the lot, the same volume of flooding would have occurred. Flooding concerns affects all 10 of the lots in Red Maple Lane to some degree, and affected homeowners have already installed drainage improvements on their private property to the maximum extent practical, and is still insufficient to address the flooding. So this map shows the outline of the drainage area. You can see that the area to the north of Maple Road discharges to the existing green culvert that goes underneath Maple. The orange depicts what the proposed plan would be, and then you can see the green that was in 6545 that was installed by the homeowners. So this is the proposed plan. The preliminary cost estimate, the project design and built by WRC, Bloomfield Township, would pay for the project through the Drains at Large Millage Fund. The project estimate on the best case scenario is roughly $600,000. Worst case scenario, approximately $800,000. The apportionment would be reevaluated. The township would be 81.6%, Oakland County 18.4% of the project. The projected project timeline, December 24 to March 25. Multiple drain board meetings would occur to accept the petition and set apportionment. WRC would prepare the request for proposals April 1 through March 31 of 26. WRC to perform condition assessment on existing infrastructure. WRC to engineering and consultant to design the extension. WRC to proceed to procure the needed easements from Red Maple Lane residents, and WRC to put together contract plans and specs, bid out the project, select the contractor, and award the project to the contractor. Spring, summer of 2026, construct the drainage extension. Staff's recommendation is that the board authorize approval of the petition and resolution attached to the board packet and proceed with the establishment and construction of the new county drain within an existing Chapter 20 drainage district. And with us here tonight from WRC is Jeff Wilson. Here from HRC is Karen Stickle, and our staff engineers, Adam Skotsky and Adam Poulter. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Corey. Any questions for Corey?
Corey, oh, sorry.
Not any questions, but as much more of a comment. And then when this was first presented to the board, it certainly was a concern concern with the homeowner and what she was going through, what they were going through. But at the time, we really were not in a position to take any action, unfortunately, because this was not something that had been fully vetted and full research that you have just done, which I appreciate very much, because if we had had that back at the time, I think we could have moved a little quicker on it. The one item, I'm familiar with most of the issues that you presented except for one, which is very important as far as my consideration making a decision on this, is that the Let's Drain really was not fully completed when it was originally built. And that, as a result, has caused considerable problems for the Red Maple Lane area. So, you know, and also was a significant amount of money this was going to cost us as a townships without having the full history on this. So appreciate that. And based on what you've presented, I'm certainly fully supportive on approving this once the board makes a decision.
Corey, I just wanted to thank you for the great detail, because when this came to the board in 2022, those pictures, I mean, like you said, they say it all, and I felt so much for the residents and that what could we do. Unfortunately, it's taken longer than we would want, but we needed to, you know, have all that history and understand. And I'm glad that at least we've got a, 18% split with the county, and totally in support of making this right for the residents. Thank you.
Any other? Michael?
Oh, go ahead, Chris.
Chris?
So I want to thank you for giving us the context and looking at other areas of the township that are going to need to be addressed. To the residents, thank you for taking the time to be diligent. We understand you invested in your homes, you invested in drainage systems that still didn't work, again, and you still continue to buy homes. I know you and your family have a lot of homes in that area, then you guys built that very beautiful home and then started experiencing some of these things. I'm glad we're at a point where now we can hopefully address it. I know it's a year and a half, I think I heard you say, but at the same token, getting the easements do take time. There are some improvements. We want to make sure we do this right? We don't want to spend $800,000 and then it doesn't address your issue. That is not going to be a concern going forward. So we're going to fix this right, and I appreciate your patience and your due diligence, and I'm fully in support of this, because not only does your area have it, there are 4 other areas of our township that we need to address. But let's start with trying to take care of yours, okay?
Can you go back to the screen with where the easements would be required?
Where the easements will be required?
Yes, because there was mention that there were certain easements would be required from the residents.
Yeah, so when the proposed locations of the storm drain, conceptually, if to install a structure just south of on the south side of Maple Road, and install pipe storm drain within the road right away and around Red Maple Lane and tie into there. It tie into the Luz drain at Lasser, I'm sorry. There might be impacts during construction when you're excavating, depending on the depth of the storm drain, may require the contractor to excavate out through the angle of repose.
Mm-hmm.
That would require the township or WRC to obtain easements from that property owner if there is a encroachment onto those properties. So that's not that, I don't know that we have anything definitive of where easements would be required at this point, but when the design is complete, WRC would procure those easements from those affected or impacted homeowners.
Okay. I would like it to go as quickly as possible, and I think and I'd appreciate it if we could give the residents a heads up of where that would occur to get their buy-in, especially if they have plans to make changes. And with sod moving or floating all over the place, we wouldn't want them to invest in additional landscaping and then be impacted by an easement change.
Certainly, and that's a great point. It's my understanding, and again, my predecessor and then my deputy recently was heavily involved in this project, and it's my understanding that we've got full support from, I believe, all of the residents that are out there for this project. So if an easement is required for a storm structure, I don't know that that would be challenging or problematic for this project.
Thank you.
Corey, the quotes of 600 to 800,000, is that the total cost of the project or our portion?
I believe, oh, come on now. My mistake. I believe that's the total cost of the project. That's the total estimated cost of the project. I have to go back to it. I got it. Yeah, that's the total cost. Worst case scenario, 800,000, that's the total cost.
And so we would be, at the current apportionment, 81%.
Correct.
82% roughly.
82.
On the hook. But in your memo, you said that it's possible that there would be a recalculation and that number could go down.
Well, we're looking at 2026 construction, Michael. So it's very challenging to predict what prices are going to do.
Well, it says the apportionment. I meant the apportionment is going to go down.
The percentage, he's saying.
You said the apportionment for the Chapter 20 Loves Relief Drain may be reevaluated in the township's favor.
Percentage-wise as opposed
Okay,
to
okay. I'm going to defer that to Jeff. Can you respond to that? Jeff Wilson from WRC.
Hello, I'm Jeff Wilson, Chief Engineer with Oakland County Water Resources Commissioner's Office. And the way that they do apportionment is once you've determined the benefiting land, so essentially the areas that are being drained, the contributing watershed, then an apportionment is cut. So this is all through the Michigan Drain Code, and there's very standard practice for how that's done and calculated, so that the township and the county, on behalf of the road drainage, pay a fair share. And so there's a very standard way of doing that. It won't be determined until you go through some design and actually see who exactly is contributing. There was a preliminary assessment district drawn at one point in one of the design documents, but an apportionment hasn't been calculated off of that just yet.
So it's possible it could go up, it could go down, or it could go up.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. But either way, if we just factor in the total cost of the project, we're looking at 600,000 to 800,000. And you've talked to our finance director to assure that there's money in the drains fund.
Correct.
So we wouldn't need to bond it.
Correct.
Okay. And just for my colleagues, that's a debt service fund that we use to pay our portion of bonds on other drains, like the one, the Dan Devine, for example. So it's a separate millage that's collected from the entire township. So it would not affect the water and sewer fund. It would not affect our operating budget. It's a separate fund.
Correct.
I have one question too.
Yeah, Martin.
And you answered my question about the timeline. I had one more, but I'm blanking, so I'll pass.
So I have, my other question's been addressed, but there's one question that's left, and I'm going to say it two ways, and I'm sure you guys can get my point, not being an engineer or an expert here, but you know, we have seen a lot of issues here over the years, and then especially there's the 2021 event. So what I'm curious to hear and be reassured that this project is going to, I'm going to describe it in two ways, is it's going to be designed in such a way that if the next 2021 event rolls around, it will handle that level of water. Or let me say it this way, the design engineering plans are to what level of rain event? A 100-year event, a 1,000-year event? What 100-year event? I mean, a 10-year event? I don't know. I mean, a 10-year event won't be enough.
Sure. So this can be factored in different ways. The design standard for conveyance is a 10-year event, so that's what the pipe handles. But it certainly can be upsized and looked at in preliminary engineering with the township.
I just can't imagine a 10-year event is going to be sufficient.
Well, that's certainly something that can be looked
I mean,
at, you know, and if it's in line with community standards to go bigger, then we will certainly look at that, and we can really work closely with township staff to make sure that the township is getting what it wants out of this.
Which is to solve the problem, of course, right? I mean, but, okay. I mean, we have looked at this for a while, and this is much more detailed than we had before, as has been mentioned, and it's, you know, just from when we were here before, we knew there was a pipe coming out there. We didn't know where the water was coming from that pipe, but now the design drawings show that that water is coming from down Maple Road, a culvert or drain there on Maple Road. That's one source of water. And the other source is it comes straight down Maple Road and then just pours down Red Maple Lane, just right down the road, because there's no drainage on the other side of that road. So this is a benefit for the road commission to drain, you know, this is road commission's water that is going sent into here, and that's a lot of water. And I just imagine that 10-year, just want to make sure whatever we do is going to fix it. We're going to spend $800,000, it's going to fix this problem, right?
Yeah, and that will all be factored into the apportionment too. So that's all part of it, is really knowing exactly what's contributing, what kind of velocities we're talking about, what kind of volumes, and making sure that we get the right level of service.
Great, thank you.
Mind if I piggyback on that real quick? So, just to follow up on his question, what is the current design that's being priced at between $6,000 and $800,000? Is that the 10-year flood, or is that long? Like, what did your design handle? That's what I'm trying to get at. I don't know if we actually got that answer. Was it the 10-year?
So I wasn't actually involved with this study. We were kind of looking at it from the outside. This really originated from the township.
So do we know the answer? I'm sorry.
The anticipated, Karen, do you know if we
I believe we looked at the 10-year, that was several years ago that we looked at that, so I can't recall off the top of my head. Give that answer.
Yeah.
but-
Yeah, let us get back to you with that and the initial conceptual stormwater runoff plan. I don't know if 10-year it was used in this preliminary design or if it was more than that.
So similar to Clerk Brook here, if we're going to spend the money, even if it has to be a few dollars more, as long as budget and our drain fund can handle it, I want this to be designed so that it can handle. We have to do the new parking lot for the senior center, and we're not using the 10-year flood.
Right.
So if we're going to do that for our own senior center, we should make sure that when we invest, we're investing for long term.
Sure.
And I know we wouldn't skimp on those things. I don't know if Martin has the same thought. I don't want to spend $800,000 on a 10-year study.
No, and I hear what you're saying, and that's the last thing we want, Chris, is to design or construct anything that doesn't work. You're spending nearly $800,000 potentially on a project, and it doesn't solve anything. That doesn't look too good. Okay, so what we will do in this design is verify that what we are constructing meets the requirements of the design standards to accommodate a storm event that, I mean, you could build and construct a storm drainage structure to accommodate a 300-year storm event, but at what cost? There's a level of service that you have to design for that is still fiscally responsible for the township. So whether or not we believe that a 10-year design can accommodate and still benefit the residents in the township, that would be our intent to do that. If a 10-year storm event can occupy that drainage area, or what's discharging into even a 10-year event, is it over-designed? Okay, and there's an option there for that too to occur. So is a 10-year too much? So that's what we'll evaluate through the design and what exactly a 10-year event can handle in this area. And we'll evaluate.
Just following up on that, we're today asked to give sort of an administrative approval for this project to move into the next phases.
Mm-hmm.
But you'll be back here again with an actual engineering plan and a project bid, when we'll know these answers. It's designed to this specification for this reason, right?
Yes, absolutely, yes.
And that was my question and concern, is that as long as you're going to be coming back to the board, and the board will have the opportunity to, question you regarding the the
proposal.
type of plan that's being evaluated and recommended, then I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Me too.
I wasn't clear about that, though. So because it seemed like we approve this, and then it goes to WRC, and they run with it, they bid it out, they award the contract, and we just get sent the bill. So is my understanding not correct? Are we going to be, here along the way approving things? Are we going to approve the contract when it comes out so that we know how much we're spending?
So December, from now to March 2025, staff will be attending the multiple drain board meetings to accept the petition and set the apportionment, okay? So from that point, we'll have a decision on what that's going to cost the township. Moving forward would be the condition assessment and on the existing infrastructure. That's done by WRC. They're engineering consulting design to design the extension. And then they're procure the needed easements for Red Maple Lane, and then put together the contract plans and specs to bid out the project. At that point, we're still, we have to determine what that cost is going to be and what the township's going to have to pay, and we'll have to make that determination then. But now's the, I guess, the initial point of this project, is my understanding, that we're approving the petition to proceed with the next steps of this Chapter 20 drain.
And then you'll come back to us. But Corey, what's the time frame to complete this project, did you say? 26?
Spring, summer 2026, and I imagine, I'm guessing this would probably take a few months, 4 months to construct once the plans are bid out and constructed.
Well, and I know when we've talked about other drainage projects and the 10-year, you used to build to the 10-year, and we've said that's not good enough anymore. But I think one of the things that you brought out here was that this is something that was never completed properly in the first place.
In the 70s.
In the 70s. So the fact that it was never, it's not like we're just building something brand new that never existed before. Well, I guess we are, but this was something that was never completely done the right way or finished in that area. So that's where you're going to have to do that judgment in terms of how much water flow and what is appropriate, I would think.
Yeah, we're connecting the pieces that weren't installed back in the 70s, and it's now causing a hardship for the current residents.
So they're experiencing now the flooding and the other problems they expressed to us. Is there any way to move this project up to help them out, to relieve them of this burden?
Well, that's a question for WRC, how quickly they can expedite.
Jeff's dying to
this
talk.
process.
He's raised his hand twice.
Well, so there's certainly some hurdles in there. Easement acquisition can hold the whole thing up. It doesn't take many people to say, I don't want this, I don't support it. And then suddenly you've got a connection piece that isn't going to be able to be made. You have to reroute the drain, you're redesigning. So there's all sorts of things. 18 months is, that's a pretty favorable timeline already. I mean, that's a pretty quick process right there. That's assuming that, people truly do want this, because sometimes everyone thinks everybody wants this until we get in there and start knocking on doors, and all of a sudden there's some issues. So I don't think it's realistic.
Fairly close neighborhood. There's not a lot of houses there, right? So if there's anything we can do to help move this up, let's take a look at that, because like the one neighbor had said, she can't even go on vacation without making plans, or we have to wake up in the middle of the night. That's not a way we want to live. So if there's anything you can do, we can talk about it to help move it up. And because, there's only 10 parcels maybe in that whole area. So I got to think the easements, we could overcome that rather quickly.
Yeah, if I may make another point too, that goes with an earlier discussion point. So the dollar amount and coming back to the township and the easements, that is stuff that our staff is going to be working very hand in hand with the township. And the drainage board would not want to move forward if there wasn't township support. So say you get into engineering, there's some big change. And we come back to the township, and the township says, wow, that's twice the cost, twice what we were anticipating. The Drainage Board would not be acting without township buy-in on everything. And our staff will work very closely with the engineering staff here through the easement acquisition and through the design standards and making sure that this meets the level of service of the community. And one other point, the 10-year conveyance that we were talking about, that's in general a community standard for a pipe with an understanding of what's going on in the larger events too. So it's something where you draw it out and really understand, what does it look like? Because we're talking about keeping a 10-year event just down in the pipe, but there's also ditch lines, and there's other areas that stormwater is sitting in subdivision swales in between homes, where it's still controlled and not risking finished floors or buildings. So that will all be looked at, and again, in line with community standards.
Well, thank you. Any other questions, Mark?
Yes, I do. What type of event occurred in 2021? Was it a 10-year event, 100-year event, 300-year event? Do we know?
Yeah, I wasn't here
It's
for
in the
that.
100-year event range.
Was it?
Oh, sure. Oh, significantly larger than 10.
And the follow-up question to that is, were there problems downstream with flooding as well? Are we aware of that or no?
In 2021?
In 2021.
Boy, again, I wasn't here for that event, but it's my understanding it was pretty much impacted a large portion of the township.
There was a lot of flooding off of the 14-mile road corridor.
Corridor as well. So the concern being that maybe this is not the only section that needs to be resolved with the county. And if the intention is to also do other work further downstream, we want to make sure, again, it's properly sized for future events. And we have hopefully a lot of good information from 2021 regarding what happened downstream and in that area and what other concerns might pop up.
Yeah, certainly, Mark.
And I know you don't necessarily have the data, but if we can get it and take a look at it so that, we can work a little bit closer with Oakland County.
If I understand your question correctly, would the connection of the Red Maple Lane storm structures tying into the Luz drain cause impacts to downstream? That's a valid question, something certainly that will be evaluated, I'm assuming, by WRC during their design process. So does this runoff, the runoff capacity based on the sizing of the piping cause issues to either upstream or downstream of the Luz drain? That's something that is evaluated during design.
And maybe that changes how, what the county actually wants to do, and maybe that will help us out.
Well, we're not going to propose, and nor is WRC going to suggest the resizing of the Luz drain.
I'm more concerned about downstream, and because our area, we know what's happening there, but we don't know what's happening downstream.
Okay.
And if what happened in 2021, there were problems downstream, then hopefully Oakland County can address those as well, so that the changes we do upstream does not impact our neighbors either.
Okay.
So that's A leads to B, and if it backs up, then we're in the same situation. And I don't think anyone wants that.
Okay. All right, so item number 8. So can I have a motion to
I'll make a motion.
motion by Mark, support?
Support.
I would like one more comment on this.
Go ahead.
If we approve this, we don't get to approve the bid, correct? The way I read this is we don't get to approve the bid afterwards. Whatever WRC in this comes in, if it's between 600,000 and 800,000, we don't get to see the design again. So whatever we approve tonight is going through. Is that correct?
I don't think that's the right way of looking at it. I mean, it really will be a close communication with the township, and if there's something, maybe you're describing, no matter what, it will get the blessing of the township. But if you're saying, if it just falls within this range, then we'll automatically move forward with the project, that's really not true. It would be, is this what we all expected? Is this the right project for the township?
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passes. Thank you. All right, item number
Thanks,
9. Jan Roncelli, Safety Path Master Plan Route Discussion presented by Corey Almas, Director of Engineering and Environmental Services. Corey, hi again.
Hey, how are you?
About the same.
Number 9. Yep. Okay, the 2024 Master Plan Update Proposal for the Safety Path Master Plan Route Map. Shown here, and it's really hard to see from this distance, but what we have and what the staff is proposing are 3 new additions to the master plan map. So the first one would be Quarton from, boy, I can't even see it from here. Good Lord.
The blue line?
Yeah,
Corton from Cranbrook Road to Chesterfield Avenue.
right. I'm just gonna go past this because it's so hard to see here. But what we're proposing is updating the master plan with three new routes. The original master plan was developed in '99 and updated in '08 and again in '18. The millage was renewed in November of '22, and there's over 78 miles of existing safety path, primarily along the arterial and collector roads throughout the township. New routes proposed are based on resident input, requests from adjoining communities, and staff observation. 2024 proposed new routes include Quarton Road from Cranbrook to Chesterfield, West Maple and North Telegraph, the connector road, and then the Wabeek Lake Drive, as we heard residents at public comment today. On Quarton Road, this would be a collaborative effort with Birmingham as they approached us with interest in making a connection from Cranbrook all the way to Maple Road, and then they would pick up their share at their expense. So this was proposed by the City of Birmingham Engineering Department. Bloomfield Township would install roughly 1,400 feet from Cranbrook to Chesterfield, and Birmingham would construct from Pilgrim to Woodward, providing continuous safety path along the south side of Quarton from Telegraph to Maple. I might add that going back to the map, north of Quarton is, in that segment, is Bloomfield Hills, and they don't have safety path on the north side of the road, but this would provide that continuous path on the south side. Bloomfield Township's portion is estimated to cost $661,000, which includes a 5% inflationary factor and all the engineering and construction oversight costs specifically for the township's portion. Our intent for this segment would be to have this bid under one contract with an agreement with the City of Birmingham, such that we're using the same consulting engineers, the same design, the same contractor, to minimize the impact to the residents there and have the same contractor doing traffic control through that period. So they approached us with interest, and it was our intent to bring it to the board, hear what you had to say. So here's some photos along Quarton Road. We do have and have had residents. We gave the residents, notifications to let them know that we're bringing this to the Board of Trustees to add to the master plan, and there was support for this for the safety path. So the next one, moving along, would be the connector road this would be Telegraph and Maple, and the issue here is that this safety path on the north side of Maple just dead ends into a parking lot, and there's no really decent mechanism or ADA compliant mechanism to move from on the north side of Maple Road to the northeast corner of Telegraph and Maple. So what was asked is that if the engineering would consider, or the township would consider, constructing a safety path on the outer limits or outside of the radius of the what's called a Jersey turn there, and install a safety path that's ADA compliant, that residents could now access the existing path here that would take you north or south. You can get to, you know, the Burger King and the gas station here on the northeast corner there. So, so with this one, the northeast corner of West Maple and Telegraph currently has a 4-foot wide, what's called an asphalt splash walk. It's not ADA compliant. It doesn't serve as a sidewalk at all. It doesn't even connect to the sidewalk. We would remove that asphalt splash pad and install the concrete safety path along the, with a buffer from the back of curb to the sidewalk, along the east-north outside portion of the connector only. The estimated cost for this would be $334,000, which includes a 10% inflationary factor and the engineering and construction engineering. Here's a few photos of that splash walk. And you can see in the upper and lower photos there that it does not connect to the existing paths.
It looks like a sidewalk.
It looks, but it doesn't function.
You're gonna have to rip it out.
It will take it out, remove it, and then.
That was just put in, wasn't it, when they just redid that road?
Yeah. Had we known, or had RCOC notified us of their intent to do that this year, and we didn't receive that, we would have. But there's no guarantee that there was no guarantee that this was going to come to fruition. So, or when this will come to fruition. So we're fine with them putting them back in. So lastly is the Wabeek, and you heard a lot about that, and the from the residents again. And what we're talking about is again installing the safety path on the outer limits of the Wabeek Drive East and West, and circle back in and tie back in at Long Lake. We don't have many, if any, safety path in the township that fits this mold here, that it's specific for the residents of any subdivision. So, but there is a demand. There was a petition signed by several residents there, and what we've outlined here is, and I just want to bring it to the board's attention, are the red dots signify the residents who would be directly impacted by the construction of this safety path, meaning that when I say directly impacted, the safety path would go directly in front of their houses. So 10 of those residents of the, I believe it was 34 total houses were in support of that. The others you can see in the green were in support of it throughout the subdivisions there, but not directly impacted by the path. And I just wanted to point that out, that should the board choose to add this to the master plan, it might be challenging come time to proceed with the construction of this path if there is a strong opposition to having path directly in front of their house. Whether it's in the right of way or not, that could be a challenge for the proceedings of the construction of this path. Now, with that said, I mean, I'm in favor of safety path. I think safety path is a great idea for the township. However, this along with somewhere like Club Drive, which is on the master plan, is a great idea in concept, but residents there who are directly affected or impacted by the path are not in favor of it, and that's kind of put a hold on locations like that. So, so the request from the residents of the 9 subdivisions bordering or near Wabeek Lake Drive and east and west approximately 1.3 miles of safety path on the outer side of Wabeek Lake Drive Loop. Provided a petition signed by 112 residents representing 79 properties and an estimated cost of $2.5 million, which includes a 10% inflationary factor. So here's some photos of what we'd be working with and around, and you can see on the right side and even the lower left corner the impacts of the trees there that would have to be removed. And I don't some of the challenges that we're faced with during safety path construction, and that's nothing different than what we deal with anywhere else in the township. We do have to do some tree clearing, shrub clearing, but that always sometimes will bring some opposition for the project. So ESD is requesting that the Board of Trustees provide some direction for the 2024 Safety Path Master Plan update. It should be noted that the board is not approving the proposed routes to be constructed at this time, but simply authorizing each route to be added to the 2024 Safety Path Master Plan for future consideration. A few things here. You're not accepting all of them at once. We can add, or we can discuss adding 1, 2, or all 3, or none, I guess. But we certainly wanted to bring this to the board for some direction. The second thing I wanted to say is that we plan and budget for projects 3, 4, 5 years out. And we do have a budget for what we can work with. And then if the Quarton Road is added to the master plan, that is going to take some maneuvering with Birmingham to see what their enthusiasm is to proceed with that project. So we might have to jockey projects around to coordinate or accommodate the city of Birmingham should they opt to, or we both opt to agree to proceed with this project. So, a lot to discuss or to consider with us with these proposals, but I wanted to open to the board for any questions you might have.
So thank you, Corey. I had a question on that Wabeek, because of all the greenery that is right on the side of the road. I know I've been through other neighborhoods and communities, and I saw it in Birmingham, where they actually put like a pedestrian pathway on the road using paint, or also using some like plastic rails.
Right.
Could that be considered? Are those roads wide enough to consider something like that, or they're not designed for anything of that nature?
That would be a question for the Road Commission for Oakland County. Based on just cursory conversations with the Road Commission, their views particular to roads and safety path, their stance is that roads are made for automobiles and not for walking. They design and build and their roads not for pedestrian use, for vehicle use. I don't believe that they'd be in favor of what's called a share row with the paint, but it's something that could be brought to their attention.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. Thank you for bringing all that to us. A lot of information, a lot of good information. I'm most enthusiastic about the Quarton Road potential safety path. I like the fact that it's a potential collaboration with Birmingham, and I'm certainly all for increasing the collaborations that we have with other communities. It's something that we just have not been strong enough in the past, and certainly want to investigate and move forward wherever we can with other communities. So that's, I think, a great project if Birmingham is enthusiastic about it. The other project with the Jersey Turn, my question on that one, and I think it's a good use potentially, is there enough space as you go all the way north on that property so that the safety path would not be too close to the road?
So you're talking about the northeast corner of the Jersey Turn?
Yes.
Here, yes. We can accommodate and connect with the existing safety path by maneuvering just it would be to the north, tie in to that existing path that's already there.
So all the way around from Maple all the way to Telegraph, there's enough space that you're not going to be up against the road?
No, there's plenty of space there.
Okay.
Yep.
And then as far as Wabeek, I have some concerns about it, not to say that it's something we shouldn't just have for future consideration, but my concerns have to do with the fact that it is insular, it's a subdivision. I think the safety issue is certainly a legitimate argument to have it as a future consideration. A significant concern also, though, has to do with the cost. It's very expensive, $2.5 million in today's dollars?
That's with a 10% contingency.
Okay.
Is that, did we know? Yeah, 10% inflationary cost.
So it certainly could go up.
It could go up.
Yeah, probably will. So that's my concern on that one. But
Well, there's more, not to cut you off,
Yeah.
but there's more to that. So,
oh, I'm sorry. We might be going the same place. My concern also with that, with Wabeek, has to do with the fact that there are so many homeowners that have to be approached to see if there's of interest, they have interest. I mean, if there's significant opposition, if there's 10 homeowners that are in favor, but there's 20 opposed, it's not even worth proceeding.
Right.
We've had safety paths in the past where there's been a couple, well, there was one on Gilbert Lake Road, there was one on Squirrel previously, where they just had to stop and they couldn't complete these safety paths because there was opposition there, and it took several years until they can complete it. Whereas with this one, I would say if there's not enough favorable homeowners as far as being interested in, it's not even worth proceeding on.
yeah, that's we know that that's going to be a challenge for us, but the HOAs could come back with unanimous support from those residents and say we are all in support and in favor of understanding that this is going to be the limits of encroachment onto our property. We will be losing these trees. With that understanding, if they were to come back and be in favor of it, there might be more for consideration. But with only 10 of those, I think 35 houses, I think it was 37 houses, that's going to be challenging for us, and I know that. And on top of that, when you're terminating your safety path in two locations, crossing Long Lake, that's a pretty significant concern from an engineering or traffic safety standpoint. So what this loop doesn't do is have a direct connection point. It's basically mid-road in two different locations that you're promoting the crossing of pedestrians in non-signalized locations. Okay, so from a traffic safety concern, there's an obvious we're promoting or potentially promoting a situation there that
That may end up forcing us to put a light in.
Yeah.
For a pedestrian crossing.
Potentially, yeah. Something to that effect that crosses Long Lake Road.
In addition, would it be beneficial moving forward if we didn't move forward with this, but in the meantime, try and get additional data from the homeowners to see how many are, and then maybe revisit it in the future?
Yeah, we met with and have had meetings with Mr. Shaw and some residents from the Wabeek, and we expressed that concern with them at that time, to say that in order for this to move forward, and based on our history of safety path and challenges with safety path, that is a thing where residents who don't want it, or who are not in favor of it, who are directly impacted by it, will then voice their displeasure with it. Now, again, I just want to say again that I'm in favor of sidewalk. I think, or safety path. I think it's great. I think it's a great thing for the community, but what I'm expressing to you are the challenges with constructing the safety path, or even adding it to the master plan, that even if it were to be added to the plan at $2.5 million and to fit into our budget cycle, it's going to even be challenging to get there. We don't have a unlimited pot of money to build these year after year, and we have to, okay, what do we have in our budget this year? Well, then let's plan accordingly.
Corey, I think you and I talked about this, and I had spoken to Mr. Shaw too, that, you know, they have about 100 residents that really want this, but how many homeowners are in there? Do you have any?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know how many.
Because, I mean, that would give you a little bit of a barometer, but one of the things I think you and I talked about was that they were comparing to Wabeek South, where there's that, it's quite a wide road that goes there along the golf course, and that has safety path, which kind of perked up my interest. Well, we have it there, you know, is this more reasonable? But that was paid for by the developers.
By the developer, yeah.
And that's a much wider road, because I'm very familiar with that. I live near there. And as much as I'd love to do this, as Neil said, the cost, but also the precedent of going internal to a subdivision, and you think of the cost, you know, hey, I'd like a safety path in my subdivision too. So I'm kind of on the fence with that. But as far as the Jersey turn, I think that would be much safer than trying to do anything where they're going across all those parking lots and the gas station right to the corner of Maple and Telegraph.
Yep.
You know, and try and complete any kind of a path there with the gas station, I think would be you know, it's much preferable to do the Jersey turn.
Sure.
And Corton, I'm really familiar with that area as well, and I've noticed that there's no safety path.
Right.
So to coordinate with Birmingham, I'm 100% for that one.
Me? I mean,
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I like the Wabeek Road proposal. And I wanted to distinguish it from, you know, I don't see this as breaking the trend for a couple of reasons. One, Club Drive is very similar. You know, it loops and connects. It could be argued that it's internal, but to a subdivision, but it's not really. It has subdivisions that feed into it. Similar to this is not one subdivision. There are multiple condo groups and subdivisions that feed into this road. It's more like a feeder road to me than an internal subdivision road.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we did a road on Wing Lake Road, which is north of Quarton and south of Lone Pine. It's near where I live. That's the thing about having 7 members on the board. You know, everyone we can cover most of the township by that. You know,
Right.
It's near where I live. 2 things about that. One is it's, you know, certainly an internal subdivision road on any standard that I could kind of come up with. And then also on the notion of getting approvals, just putting it on the plan means that sort of gives your team a authorization to work on it some. It's not any board decision that that's what we're going to do, and people, you know, come hell or high water, you're going to like it. And what I've also seen is your team and the people that work out there and the engineers, whether it's on the west side of Maple Road, or when they built on Wing Lake, where I described earlier, when they built that project, lots of people had opposition to it, but the engineers come out there and they work with them. They talk about the trees, and they really do a great job at addressing the concerns that are on the ground at the time.
Yep.
So I mean, I think you can do. I think worth. All I'm saying by putting it on the master plan is it's worth looking at some more.
Okay.
Not that I'm saying I
We're
will
not
vote
approving
for
it.
it
We're not
or
approving
approving it, but
Right.
we're approving, saying, yeah, look at this. This could be something that works under the right conditions, including the signaling on Long Lake. I mean, there are lots of. I absolutely agree. We could identify tons of barriers, but without giving authorization to look at them, we don't know whether they are solvable or are just conceptual barriers that
Right.
don't turn out to be an actual barrier at all.
Right.
So that's why I support looking. I support looking at it some more, and if putting on the master plan sort of gives the authority to do that extra digging because you're busy people, then I support putting on the master plan.
Yeah.
The others look good too. So.
Yeah, I would feel, Martin, a lot more comfortable had the petition had those more than just 10 along that ring, along Wabeek. Okay, so if they came in and of the 37 residents along that, they had, let's call it 30. Okay, And then that's showing me support of, that from the petition, that there is interest by those residents to say, hey, we want this.
Yeah, do we know if they oppose it? I know you asked, our representative to talk to those folks, but do we know if any of them oppose it?
I have no idea.
Hypothetical problem. It may not be a problem.
Yeah.
Chris?
Yeah, so I appreciate you bringing up the Jersey Park one. I know I kind of brought that up with one of the residents, and I'm glad we got that on there. I think that makes sense from the safety perspective, so we get people off that corner, which again is a tough corner as it is. The collaboration with Birmingham, I'm with Trustee Barnett on that. Anything we can do to collaborate and then connect that full corner is great, and we're going to get some synergy savings by working with the same contractor, so we may be able to find a little more value for our dollar when it works that way. So you always have scale, so that always helps. When it comes to Wabeek, I have a lot of the same concerns everybody else does. I just looked at Club Drive. Club Drive, while it may be still a neighborhood, is feeding to a country club. So there is additional traffic of people going there that are not going to their homes, but are going to a place of recreation. And in Wabeek North, there is no area of recreation that people are going to. People that are driving through that neighborhood, people that live in that neighborhood. So there are plenty of neighborhoods in our township that I could see have the same problems. Sidewalks or safety paths would be great for them. For kids sitting up by the bus, that's a concern in every single one of our neighborhoods. Whether we're talking about Hickory Heights or Westview, or name the subdivision that has a somewhat main road.
I would
and
add
there's-
Westview. That really needs, Westview
there
really
are
has a
plenty of other
problem.
neighborhoods.
Major cut-through road.
A lot of, this is not a cut-through road. This is supporting only a neighborhood. And our master plan has not done that. And I understand people are arguing over the other ones. That's perception, and that's okay. $2.5 million of safety path money for one neighborhood is also a big allocation for me. We want to be as studious with this money as we can, so I do have a concern with that. I understand Martin's perspective of, it doesn't mean we're saying yes to this, but we're just putting on the plan. I would rather know that our easements are not our hurdle before we even get to that point. If you had told me that the people that are being affected by it are the ones that did the petition, that would get me more across the line to add recreation and those things, but which is part of our strategic plan. Part of also our strategic plan is to save trees and not mess with our canopy and not allow residents to cut trees down. We stopped developers from cutting trees down, and yet we're going to put a safety path in here. And even with the quick pictures, we're going to be hitting a lot of trees and a lot of canopy, which if the residents want that, that's one thing, but they're also telling us not to do that. So we can't pick and choose all the time. So I have a concern with that particular part of this. But I really do appreciate you bringing this to us, and whether it gets put on the master plan now or not, we can always continue to add to this, right? There are always tweaks to this plan.
Oh, yeah.
You guys get people that petition or bring it to you, and you and your team go out in the field and see areas that are concerned or see safety things, and like, let's see if we can get this done.
Right.
So we always know that you're going to bring us wherever the safety path takes us. You guys are always looking for these.
Yep.
So I do appreciate the time and the amount of dedication you did and the 100-something residents that signed this petition.
Right.
It's a lot of work. Mark.
Okay, so on the motion, can I have a motion for that?
No, we got
some more here.
We're not done.
That's okay. My concern with Wabeek is some of the comments that were made with road assessment approvals in Bloomfield Village. There were a lot of complaints about the fees for the sidewalks that they had to incur. And Braidway, Glengarry can all be considered pass-through roads. There are several in that community, and I think it would be unreasonable to have Bloomfield Village foot the bill and Wabeek gets a pass. I did notice in some of your road photos that the roads were not in good shape. Maybe the question should be that when it's time to redo the roads, that's the time to look at the sidewalks. And we can combine two projects together and have it land at a lower cost threshold for the members of Wabeek. I'm also concerned about crossing the road. I don't want people to feel that they have to cross the road at either juncture, but I think what that does do is open up an opportunity along Long Lake Road to finish out the circuit, and I think that might be appropriate for the township to consider.
Mark, let me ask you a question about that, just to kind of clarify. You were referring to the Village Bradway and some other roads. They already have sidewalks there.
Correct, but who paid for them?
Probably the developer when they developed the
But
community.
we just did rework on those sidewalks, and
Absorb
the township.
We do all the maintenance.
We do the maintenance.
We do the maintenance, but who put it in?
Developer put them in, as I understand.
Yes,
But
yeah.
we are responsible for the maintenance of all of
Maintenance.
those sidewalks.
So, again, it comes to the developer did not put them in. I think Val, her statement on what was put in already by the developer, are we maintaining those sidewalks for them? Or is that the
Wabeek
Wabeek?
South.
In Wabeek South, there is a stretch before it turns into West Bloom that the township is responsible for maintaining those sidewalks as well.
So I would prefer to stay consistent with what we're doing in other neighborhoods. I don't think it's fair to have one community benefit in ways that others don't. I think Chris brought up some good points as Club Drive. Other residents are going there and attending. I think that's a very good point. The other two projects, I concur with a lot of the sentiment already on the board. But I do think there's an opportunity. I like the idea of maybe we use a bike path instead of a walkway for the lines. Maybe that's more in line with what the county prefers. I do see a lot of bike paths in Royal Oak and other areas, and maybe that's a way to accommodate and add some safety.
Yeah, the share the road concept. That would be, or take a interaction, collaboration with the road commission.
Doesn't that have to be on a major road usually?
I'm sorry?
Isn't that usually on a major road as opposed to a subdivision road?
I've seen them on residential roads, yeah, and
I think one point with Royal Oak is a city, so they own their roads
Yep.
and they have more control over what
Yep.
they could do. As a township, we
Yep.
don't have that control.
Right.
correct.
Because it's owned by the county.
We can always ask. I mean,
You can always ask.
No, but if
I
we
wanted to
don't
make
ask,
two
we can-
points before we seek a motion. The first is, just because if the Wabeek proposal doesn't make it onto the master plan, doesn't mean that we can't continue to consider it and work on it and talk to homeowners and, maybe we revisit it in 6 months to a year, when we do this every year. We review the safety path master plan. So that's point number one, is that it doesn't have to be on the master plan for us to consider it and to work on it. Number two, a master plan is designed, I think, for, routes that are more likely than not going to be done. Like, it's on the master plan, we're going to do this, because every year, the engineering department comes to us and says, okay, we've got X amount of dollars in safety path millage, what are we gonna spend it on this year? Let's do this one and this one and this one, or whatever it is, off of the master plan. So, to me, something should be more, likely than not that it would get done. I think there's been a few exceptions, the Club Drive, the second Club Drive, or the north part of Club Drive, that ran into opposition, as an example. But, so those are my points, that we should, I think, reserve the master plan for things that are more likely than not going to get done, so that when we, every year, budget with our safety path millage, we know, where those funds are gonna be done.
Sounds good, okay.
Make a motion.
Make a motion?
Yeah. I'd like to make a motion that we include in master plan consideration for the safety paths, the Quarton potential collaboration with Birmingham, the Jersey turn on Maple going up to Quarton.
Telegraph.
Thank you, Telegraph. And that the Wabeek project just be tabled for now in order to have additional, so that the homeowners can be more proactive and provide, and maybe work with our department to provide more information on interest from the additional homeowners, so that we can see if it's worth including on the master plan, and taking on more time on the project.
Okay.
That's a very long motion.
I know.
Is there support?
I can cut it down.
Support.
Any more comment?
One quick comment. I personally would prefer to add Wabic to that. I understand that's not going to fly today, but Wabic folks, I think, have heard pretty good explanation of what the barriers are, and I encourage them to work on it, and let's talk about it again.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I'll support the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, passes. Thank you, Corey. All right, number 10, Jan Roncelli Safety Path Split Rail Fence Replacement Discussion. Back again.
I'll be real quick on this one.
Oh, this is a good one now.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorites.
Yep. So, going back to 2016, staff has been replacing, and ongoing, the replacement of the existing split rail fence throughout the township that we see. DPW and engineering then wanted to come up with something a little bit more durable and would weather the test of time more so than what the wooden split rail fence is doing right now. So ESD and DPW maintain approximately 81,000 square feet of retaining wall and over 34,000 lineal feet, that's 6.4 miles, of fencing throughout the safety path network. Current fencing styles include the wood split rail, upright black aluminum, and the white vinyl split rail throughout the township. Here's the wooden split rail fence that you see mostly throughout the township. Here is the black aluminum fencing, and then a photo along Square Lake Road of the white vinyl split rail fencing. So damaged, decaying, and deteriorated wooden split rail fencing that has exceeded its useful life is currently replaced with upright black aluminum fencing where necessary. The aluminum fence is more durable than the wood or the vinyl and easier to maintain. The EESD has recently received negative comments pertaining to the aesthetics of the upright black aluminum fencing, as well as concerns for the vertical slats that cause a sightline impediment in some locations. And I'll just go back to this one here. In the upper left corner there, that's coming out of a driveway. So that is on Long Lake Road, and you can see that there's a site obstruction that's created by that upright aluminum. So what we're proposing is going to a different style of durable fencing. So in response to the comments and the concerns regarding the upright black aluminum, ESD has researched alternatives. So staff is proposing an aluminum split rail, three rail fence in matte bronze, and is the best option for aesthetics, functionality, and durability. The aluminum split rail, split three rail would cost approximately $10 more per lineal foot than the upright black aluminum. And we wanted to show there's an example of a four rail, and here is an example of the three rail black mat. So there's a couple issues that are presented with upright aluminum that we wanted some direction or discussion from the board. We don't need to make any movements right now. We can table this, we can talk about this later, but we wanted some direction on where to go with the discoveries of the upright aluminums. So we don't necessarily know or if the bronze aluminum fence is the right choice, but it's something that's, again, that we need to find and install that's durable, long-lasting, more so than the wooden fence.
So you're going to stop using the black, was it 6 foot?
Yeah, it's not 6 foot. It's a 4 foot upright aluminum, black aluminum with the vertical slats.
I've seen them go up, and they do block views.
Yep.
No matter what.
Yep.
And in your picture you had of the bronze one, so there's two to choose from. There's a 4 rail and a 3 rail.
Yeah, so the existing, Mike, that we have in the wooden, let me just go back to the wooden fence, and that really throughout the township.
Like it.
We like it. It's
But they
very.
don't last that long, though, do they?
No, and that's the problem that we're encountering, DPW is encountering, is that they are constantly going out there and to maintain this wooden split rail fence, the wood itself decays, it rots, the fence itself, depending on the locations, we have high water tables, that fence doesn't last. And DPW's, and this is going back to 16, was searching for something different that's more durable, long-lasting.
It seems to fail too often. I know the parts that I walk, I don't know if it's kids climbing on it or the deer. I know there's one of the places, there's a deer path that runs through there. If the deer are clubbing it, I don't know, but I've called a couple times or reported a couple times because it just doesn't seem to hold up, unfortunately.
Right. It is attractive as it is.
Where is it falling down? Is it where the post is in the ground
At
that
the
it's
base,
rotting? Or
yeah. It falls
is there
right-
another solution to that problem?
Right at the base.
I mean, like a
But we've had it where
concrete, spot, or I mean,
we've had the whole slats, the lateral
Do they make
slats.
a imitation
fall out.
synthetic wood split rail fence?
We did a cursory kind of like, there's all kinds of fence out there, Mike. We tried to come up with, and we tasked our staff with kind of, all right, let's find something that might be more appealing. But and we don't need to make a selection today, other than the fact that let's stop using the upright aluminum and let's pursue something else. It's maybe as aesthetically pleasing as the wooden split rail fence, but certainly more durable.
So we don't need to make a motion or vote, you just FYI that
Yeah.
we'll be prepared to, you'll do some more homework on it?
Yeah, and if the board finds something or sees something and wants to bring to our attention that we consider that's aesthetically pleasing and also functions and is durable, long-lasting,
take that challenge.
We're all ears, you know. so.
The other thing too, because I've been very vocal about being against I've been very opposed to those aluminum fences.
Right.
And in some of the other projects too. But, I appreciate what you've brought, any kind of composite split rail, and if you can bring more, that would be great. But I would implore you to please do this as quickly as possible, because I think that once we get through the winter, and as you can install new fencing, I would like to see them installed as soon as possible and replacing damaged fencing.
Right.
In addition to that, my own personal opinion is that once we make a decision, and again, hopefully sooner rather than later, I would like to see all of the aluminum fencing removed. I think they're just disgusting.
Okay.
They don't fit in the community. They have no place being here.
Right.
Besides the safety issue, aesthetically, they don't belong here.
Right.
They're just very, they need to be replaced.
Okay.
So.
Thank you, Corey.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, board.
All right, number 11, introduction of a site plan and development agreement amendment concerning units 44 and 45 of Turtle Lake, and set a public hearing date presented by Andrea Bibby, Deputy Director of Planning and Building.
Hello, good evening. Nice to see everybody. So I am here to present the action I'll be representing this evening is I'm introducing a request on behalf of the Turtle Lake Development to amend their development agreement as well as to subdivide 2 of their parcels. The request this evening would be for the Township Board. I will provide a slight overview. Our request this evening is that the Township Board consider under what conditions that they would set a public hearing to consider this lot split. Pretty quickly, it's rather straightforward. Most of the information has been provided in your packet and within your staff report. We were approached by the property owner, Act 6 LLC, on behalf of Turtle Lake. They are seeking to amend their site plan, and because this development was part of a development agreement with the township, when it was originally developed, anytime there are significant changes to the layout or the site configuration within Turtle Lake, it comes before the Township Board. If it's a major change. We have had some minor amendments. Those do not necessarily have to come before you. This is considered a major amendment. Before you, highlighted on your screen are the 2 parcels in which you were referring to. These are units 44 and unit 45. The The lots themselves currently today are actually make up what is commonly known as the equestrian parcels. So they do currently have some structures, a stable, and a house located on them, as you can see highlighted on your screen. The request, and based on information that has been provided us by Mr. Arthur Kubert, who is representing the property owner, he provided a letter dated March 7th and August 27th of 2024. And when we were first approached, it was essentially noting that Turtle Lake has identified that through very consistent marketing and their attempt to develop this property in the current configuration, they have been unable to market it and have then now come forward with the request that they have is to create a total of 8 lots out of the 2 lots that currently exist. So here you can see highlighted on your screen the aerial of those 2 lots, where you can see the path as well as the equestrian property highlighted. It would be on the right-hand side of your screen. Towards the bottom of the screen. Actually, those are the 2 parcels. You can see here, this was the original site plan and layout for the Turtle Lake development. So taking a look back in the history books, you can see that these parcels, as noted as 44 and 45, were originally slated to be in that configuration. However, I do want to note back in 2000, there was a master deed amendment to the Turtle Lake, which did allow the current owner of the unit 44 to create 3 additional units for a total of 4 lots on the site. So my point of bringing that up is that this is not the first time that the consideration has been made that that lot 44 would be contemplated to be divided into 4 parcels. Here's some photographs of the existing property that we're speaking of. You can see the barn, fencing, the stable structure on the site, all of which would have to, these are encumbrances that would have to be removed at the time of any future development. This is, again, the original site plan that was approved back in 2000. Bless you. And now we can see highlighted on your screen, those 2 lots now are showing lots, creating 8 individual lots. We have provided a table within your staff report that does indicate that these lots, as proposed, do meet, they are very similar in size with the adjacent other parcels and properties within the Turtle Lake subdivision or development. They range from approximately all the proposed parcels for a total of 8. They range from the smallest coming in at 1.08 acres, and then the largest being proposed is as large as 2.09 acres. So the range of the parcels do go from approximately 1 acre to 2 acres, which again is similar to the properties that are provided currently within the subdivision. The proposal has been, and legal descriptions have been provided for review. The engineering and environmental services did do a review, taking under consideration any future infrastructure that would be required to be developed in order to build upon these lots. In their memo, which is concluded in your packet, dated May 9th, 2024, they do make notes addressing comments that would have to be addressed prior to development. These include water and sewer, utility easements that would be required, storm drainage and grading, wetlands and natural feature setbacks, floodplain and tree preservation. Essentially, that encompasses all the requirements upon development of these lots. So the tree preservation ordinance would come into play, natural features setback. We have the legal descriptions and the buildable lot. Each lot does have a defined buildable area that does depict that they are able to meet the required setbacks within that zoning district, as well as not have any impedances or obstructions into natural features or the wetlands on site. So with that, I do know we have representatives here that are here in the audience, but however, I know this evening we are asking you to consider setting a public hearing for the consideration of the subdivision of these lots to a total of 8. They're currently in a configuration of 2. And again, this is a request on behalf of the property owner. I do also want to note that the fire department did review and did note that they have no objections with the lot splits and their proposed configurations. I also want to note that there has been a draft Ninth Amendment to the development, as well as a updated development agreement to identify this proposed change. That language has been reviewed by our township attorney, and he does find that the language is acceptable. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. And I would ask that the board consider setting a public hearing for January 27th. 2025, at which that time the amended site plan and associated amendments for the Turtle Lake master deed and development and the reconfiguration and split of these parcels is heard, and the township board will hold that public hearing.
Okay, and again, that was January 20th, Andrea?
27th, please.
27th, thank you. Okay. And I noticed on the chart you supplied to us, these are good-sized lots, and they are in keeping with what that has been developed. And this was the old equestrian area center?
Correct.
And are there any horses there now?
No, from my understanding, actually, there's been amendments under their own development agreements, which is indicating that the uses of horses on that site are not something that would be permitted at this time. So no, there are no horses, and there's no desire in the future, from my understanding, to have any equestrian activity there.
Any questions?
So I do believe this property has been for sale for an extended period of time as it's configured. Is that correct? Yes.
2016, I believe, is what the letter states that they've been marketing it.
So again, I always think back to kind of like what some of our residents are saying. They don't want to increase density. Now, that being said, these property owners have tried marketing this property for a great deal of time, trying to showcase these big lots and allowing, potential buyers or builders to build on it. And yet, even doing that, they've not been able to get any buyers. So again, trying to make it more marketable and again, allow more development, they are now asking for this change. That is why I'm in support of it. I don't like necessarily going too dense, but the same token, they have tried marketing it as it is, and it was unsuccessful. And again, they didn't do it for 6 months. Like again, we know that these are expensive properties, and they marketed for 8 years and still didn't get a buyer. So that is why I'm in support of this, because again, not only does it fit the other lots in the neighborhood, it still provides enough buildable area in every single one of those lots to build a home that matches the neighborhood. And again, they did the due diligence and tried marketing it as is, and it was unsuccessful. So I'm in support of it.
Thank you. Anybody other comments?
I guess my concern is that it's one thing if you want to reduce, make it into, say, 4 lots from 2, but the 8, and with all the water features and all the restrictions with especially the far left and the far right around the corner, and then the inlet of water, you're coming very close to the water, and then, you were talking about natural features setback, but we know nature can get disturbed. It's undoubtedly been a wildlife refuge. I'd like to see the lots smaller, not split so small. I think it's probably very marketable for homes, and maybe not as, single large lots. I just have concerns about the density, and that is something that we've heard from residents in the master plan. And I think, the buildability, a couple of those lots are very awkward. Trying to make more lots out of 2 lots. So I would like to see less density.
And just to clarify, Val, as you were talking, I asked our attorney, if we hold a public hearing, that's something that can be addressed at a public hearing, is the amount of lots and the size of the lots.
I just have a quick question. So I understand that Victors International, they signed off on it. What about the homeowners association?
Victors International actually represents the homeowners
Okay.
association, is one of the same.
Okay, good enough.
Yeah.
In that case, I'm in agreement with Chris, because when residents are talking about density, I don't think they're talking about Turtle Lake. Turtle Lake is a community unto itself. It's, as most of us recall when it was first developed. So it's a very special community, and certainly as proposed, and of course we can discuss it more on the 27th if we move forward, but as proposed, the lots would still be the same size and consistent with what is already there.
Any other comments? Martin?
Just to be sure, the memo says the 13th of
Yeah,
January,
that's what
but
I
just to be
saw
sure,
down
the
there, too.
27th, right?
We're going to ask
Okay.
for the 27th.
Okay.
Which indeed is the Monday that we're meeting. I just checked that. 'cause
Yes, no,
We've messed
thank you.
that up before.
No, thank you. Yeah,
but-
we had a
27th,
little
okay.
administrative discussion to move it to the 27th.
Any other comments?
Yes, I like the points Val made, and I think I share some of the same concerns. I would, in particular, parcel H, I would like to understand how large those buildable areas are, parcel H, and then the dimensions because of the odd shapes. D and A, I definitely think it could be split into each section, split into 6 instead of 8, but I would like to understand better those buildable parcel sizes.
Well, in terms of the actual the size of the parcel I have, I don't know if we actually square footed out the actual buildable footprints.
I thought it was in one of the things. It actually tells you the per square foot buildable footprint for each one of the parcels, if I'm not mistaken.
Depending on the size of the parcel.
Each parcel, they'll show you the buildable square footage or the footprint. I remember seeing when I looked at the packet, and even some of the small ones still had 9,700 square feet of land area that they could build on. So again, when you think about like even the size of these homes, you're talking, I mean, again, that's 9 or 10,000 square foot ranch. Most of these are not ranches in the neighborhood, so there's still plenty of buildable area when you're looking at this from a developer or builder perspective. What page is it on? Can you put it up here, Andrea?
Yeah, it's sort of the middle of the packet.
Yeah,
There's no date on it, there's no page number.
It delays as you
Sorry.
go, so I'm trying to find it. Do you know, oh,
Page 2 that has the graph of the size of the lots.
well, there was one that specifically gave you the buildable footprint area, which again, I know both Mark as well as Val had mentioned. Thank you.
It was a table?
No, there was
map?
actually,
Is that it?
oh, it gave me the square footage of each one. Do you remember where
Yeah,
it was?
it gives square footage under the Spalding de Decker, that shows just the 8 lots. It says it's 72,379 square feet. I believe this is for the lot itself.
Nope. It says, I'm on page 122, and it'll give you, if you see buildable area square footage. So parcel A, which is small against the pond, is 11,507 square feet of buildable area. H, which is
And
what,
I like, see the size of that, and I'd like to understand also the dimensions. So sometimes with the triangular shapes,
so on page 122 of our packet, it actually provides you with outlines to show you what it is. And then, so the small one is 9,100 square feet. So they'd be building an 8,000 square foot ranch, which they could in that neighborhood, but I imagine they're mostly colonials to get that water feature and all that stuff, as well as some of their area improvements associated with the hardscapes around the property.
Well, but Chris, are you taking into account like a 3-car garage and a driveway?
Yeah, so total footprint of a property could be 8,000 square feet, and it still wouldn't even max out the buildable area shown on their survey. Again, a surveyor put this together. And again, we're not deciding this now, we're just allowing it to go there, but they have provided us that detail, and again,
Concerned where there's the couple areas, the A and H, where it really cuts in and there's, half of the lot or more is water lot. And the
But it
risk
meets
to
the-
the aquifer, the environment, the construction, they can put up a fence, but
but it meets our minimum setbacks. According to Andrea, it already
It
meets
does,
them.
it meets the minimum setbacks as well as the minimum, each lot is required under the zoning classification to be at least 22,000 square feet. That's our requirement, our zoning ordinance, and these lots range from about 90,000 square feet, which is the largest, down to the smallest, which looks like it's about 47,000 square feet. So it definitely meets the minimum 22,000 square feet per the underlying zoning.
Right, it meets the zoning, it is harmonious with the neighboring properties, and it's got the approval of the homeowners association.
Correct.
I don't know why we're delving into their choice of how they want to.
And I'm concerned if we don't move forward, we could have some issues.
Right,
It's not my property.
it meets our
Right.
zoning, it's harmonious, and the HOA approves it, so why are we
Yeah, and as far as the environmental concerns, there is a permitting. When the
have
building
to
goes
move
up,
forward.
they'll
They're
have
gonna
to have
deal with
permits
it.
they'll need to get for,
Now's not the time.
to address any kinds of concerns as far as the water and the environment, so.
Correct.
I'm ready to make a motion.
All we're doing is setting a public hearing.
Right, just for a public motion.
And I
Public
will
hearing,
support that
excuse me,
motion.
For
Okay, go
January
ahead.
27th, 2025.
20, okay, January 27th, 2025, right?
Yes.
Support.
And support, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, number 12, item number 12, consider approval of a site plan for Clean Express Car Wash at 40 East Square Lake Road, presented by Andrea. Back to Andrea, hi again.
Hi again. So the proposal this evening, this is a site plan application that we have. As some of you here are familiar with the township, all of you are familiar, we're all familiar with the township. We're located at Square Lake and Woodward. So this is located at the site 40 East Square Lake, which is formerly known as the Tim Hortons Restaurant drive-through. The request that we have before this evening at this piece of property, which you can see highlighted on your screen, which does have access to both Woodward Avenue to the west as well as Square Lake to the north. There is a request on behalf of the property owner, Jonah Properties, is seeking a site plan approval for a fully enclosed 11,000 square foot 525 square foot Clean Express auto wash in this location. You can see currently where the Tim Hortons building is located. That would be demolished, and then the construction of the new car wash would be this proposal. The property itself, you can see, is zoned B3. The dark red, that lot does actually include on the parcel, it does include the Rusty Bucket Restaurant. So just to note that this car wash would have access from both Square Lake as well as Woodward. I also want to note that 40 Square Lake Road, as you can see highlighted there between the red and the blue side, which is closest to the residential to the east, is actually zoned P1. That zoning classification is specific to parking, circulation only. So the site plan as submitted does comply with the split zoning on the site, in which that there's no buildings or construction or activity other than car activity and parking that's taking place within that P1 zoning classification. So the proposal for this approximately 11,000 square foot Clean Express auto wash, as I stated earlier, our ordinance does require that car washes, auto laundries are fully enclosed. So in this application, there is parking that's actually interior to the building, which you can see highlighted, however, that is inside the building. All the vacuums are actually located underneath in this closed parking area, and there's a conveyor belt system on the west side of the property, which is closer to the CVS, which is where more of the activity will take place. That's where the conveyor belt is, where the cars will go through the car wash, as well as there is a pay station to the south of the site where you can see some cars that are being demonstrated and illustrated on that screen to show where people would pull in to the site, most likely from Square Lake Road, enter into the queue line, where at that point then they could pay, do a self-pay, and then they enter into the car wash area, which is, like I said, a conveyor belt system. And then upon exiting that conveyor belt system, they can then turn into the enclosed parking area, where they'll have vacuuming, where a patron can go into there, vacuum their car, and then exit out through that same entrance that brings you into the vacuuming area. This site plan as a auto laundry, it does comply with the provisions of our B3 general business zoning classification. This is actually a permitted use. This application has not had to seek any variances. The applicants worked very hard to develop something that fit into the area, as well as did not require any variances. So they were able to accomplish that goal. As I stated earlier, egress would be allowed from both Square Lake Road, as well as people could enter and exit from the Woodward entrance that they share with the Rusty Bucket. I do want to note that there is a shared parking agreement that is on record, that has been on place. I do want to note that the applicant, Jonah Properties, actually owns the entire site. So this is under one ownership that this request is coming to you. The site plan itself actually shows a total of 22 parking spaces, including one barrier-free, so they definitely meet the parking requirement for a car wash, which is one space for each employee. The applicant did complete a traffic impact study by Manick and Smith Group. It was reviewed by our traffic engineer, Fishbeck, and did determine that it is conformance with the township requirements. They did note that they did have the applicant submit a, which is not uncommon when we have commercial development, a traffic management plan, so that we want to ensure that when they do have approximately a 5%, that busy day of the year, which is called out by our traffic engineer at about maybe 5% opportunity. Apparently it's not after a really snowy, icy, rainy day. They have a very busy influx of business. However, based on the information that's been provided by the applicant, as well as that shared traffic management traffic management study, we have identified that there are no concerns in regards to the queuing. The queuing actually shows a total of 20 spaces to allow for, that would bring you to the very end of the building there to the north, which brings you to the end of the building. That allows for a total of 20 cars stacked, as well as the cars that are in the queue, as well as conversations that we have had with the applicant and the franchisee and the owner of the business themselves, understanding what their demand is and how they're able to meet their demand, that we feel that this site is sufficient in being able to accommodate a safe and clear circulation pattern to accomplish that. I just want to note, too, that a landscape plan has been provided. This actually provides a nice aerial, again, showing those rectangulars with X's. Those are actually representing the vehicles as they would be in the queue line and then enter into the pay station, and then eventually entering into the car wash itself. Here's a joint site plan indicating and showing the location of the rusty bucket on the site. And I would like to get to the landscape plan. The computer's getting tired. Okay, there's the landscape plan, thank you. So with the landscape, you can see that they're adding some additional trees along that easterly lot line that abuts the residential, as well as planting as much as they can within the impervious surface and the site. Lake Road, as well as adding some landscape islands. And in terms of the utilities that they're adding to the site, they are adding a dumpster enclosure, which is to the rear of the site, fully enclosed. It does have evergreen screening as required by our ordinance, as well as a loading area, which is highlighted and striped in the rear of the site, which is also a requirement. And so they do meet all the requirements as it relates to the parking lot trees. Anytime we have parking lot trees, you require 1 tree per 6 parking spaces. In this instance, they're required to have 4 parking lot trees. They have been provided in conformance with the ordinance. Also want to note that any of the lights that are being provided, the new lighting does comply with the provisions of our ordinance. They cannot be taller than 20 feet from grade. Downward shielded as not to have any negative impact or light flow onto adjacent properties. This site plan did have an opportunity to be reviewed. Actually, the applicant has provided some very nice 3D renderings that really can give you an overview of what the building, standing at a relatively low profile. This would be the view from Square Lake Road. I do want to note that at this time, they're not seeking any signage. They would have to be required to come back and apply for signage secondary, as well as go to the design review board. You can see the queue line, as well as that landscape hedge dividing between essentially that B3 zoning classification and that P1. And then here's also another view from the rear of the site. I do want to mention that the applicant did reach out to the Colberry Hills Association next door to the site. They did send them a copy of the site plan, gave them information. We have not heard anything from the neighborhood. I don't believe the applicant has had any additional information. I think we feel that the enclosed operation is actually a nice upgrade to a typical car wash with a very low negative impact to the residential neighborhood, as well as the fact that the most of the activity is immediately abutting that CVS there to the west. So with that, the application was reviewed by our various departments. You can see noted that the fire department noted that they will have requirements that will be, they don't have any objections. They will have requirements when it comes to permitting and plan review, including fire suppression and fire alarms are required for this project. Fire hydrants in commercial areas must be spaced at a maximum of 250 feet per ordinance. And the fire department, FDC, must have a fire hydrant within 100 feet. So those are the things that they'll be looking for upon application. And as well as the environmental engineering services. Engineering Environmental Services had an opportunity to review it, as well as HRC, our consulting engineer, who also conducted a water analysis and sanitary sewer capacity study, which determined that they do have suitable water pressure to accommodate this use. I also do want to note, because I do think it's an interesting fact, is that they reclaim about 90% of their water and reuse it with the car wash operation. So I just wanted to share that as a kind of a green-friendly initiative by our car wash. And then lastly, the building design, as you can see, is presented. Here's a copy. Here's a rendering of the interior of the car wash. And then you can see these are photographs of in the back, you can see the existing Tim Hortons building. And you can actually note in this picture that there's a bit of a grade change between the commercial activity and the residential to the west, to the east. With that, the building design, as you could see, is primarily of a brick with some fiber cement siding on the south elevation. And the pay stations will be covered by 9-foot-high canopies, as you can see in the back, highlighted in that 3D rendering. And this did have an opportunity to go before our design review board on October 16th, 2024. Did find unanimous support, as well as taking a stop on November 4th, 2024 to the Planning Commission, where they also received favorable recommendation. And with that, I can answer any questions. I know we have representatives here from for the proposal, as well as the property owner. And I do ask what considerations the board this evening would take to approve this site plan. And these suggested considerations would be compliance with the requirements of the township departments, compliance with the requirements of the township's landscape architect.
That's you. Thank you.
That was perfect. And then review and approval for signage by the design review board. But again, with that, I'm happy to answer any questions,
Thank
as
you,
well as the
Andrea.
applicant. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
No, just a couple comments. When this was first presented to the Planning Commission, I didn't know what to expect because we haven't had a car wash like this presented in the township where it's fully enclosed. And everybody on the Planning Commission was very enthusiastic about this project. Just the fact that no one was opposed to it from the Colberry subdivision group spoke volumes, because when you first, Lath, when you first, as you recall, had the Rusty Bucket and the Tim Hortons and that whole project, it was a lot of loud meetings in opposition to that. And obviously, people are very pleased with what you've done here. And the traffic management study is very convincing to me that as far as with Square Lake, the cars can be handled. Having it stacked 20 cars plus in queue is certainly very convincing to me as far as safety and as far as the ingress and egress on Square Lake Road. So I'm certainly very much in favor of the project.
I think it looks like a very good proposal, the plan, the landscaping. I do like the fact that you can come in from Square Lake or from Woodward in terms of, people trying to get in there. It makes it very accessible. I just have a question that the packet talked about it, and you mentioned the 2 pay stations.
Correct.
Are they manned-woman pay stations, or are they automated?
They're automated.
Automated, so it's sort of like, is it staffed inside at all, or is the whole thing automated?
Would you like to hear from the representative from the business?
Sure. Because it sounds automated, and that's fine. Curious.
And while you're doing that, can you also let everybody here know that if it gets too stacked, that there are people there that are going to take care of it?
Yes, absolutely. I'm Jake Raylett with Mannequin Smith, the design engineer. Thanks for your time tonight. To answer your question, yeah, we generally have at bare minimum 3 employees on site. 2 would be inside and 1 is outside at all times to handle any sort of traffic flow issues, as well as, deal with any, getting trash out of the vacuums. But those are inside here. But yeah, and then on those days where we're going to have higher traffic volumes expected, which we generally know ahead of time based on kind of weather patterns. Express has about 100 locations, so they're pretty experienced at, operations and these things. On those days, they'll have up to 6 employees on site with extra outdoor traffic management. And the kiosks themselves are automated, but the employees are able to help anybody who's having issues with them.
Okay, great, thank you.
Chris?
Yeah, just a couple things. First, I appreciate the fact that I believe the hours of operations are actually less with this business compared to Tim Hortons. So we talk about the impact of the neighborhoods and that they actually, I think this opens at 7 versus Tim Hortons. So you think about the actual traffic impact or noise early to residents will be actually less with this business, which is great. The only question I actually have, I love the thought out for the 3D pictures. I appreciate it because then you can actually see how it is on the site. I understand that's extra work for you guys, so I do appreciate you taking the time and to invest that money. My only question is, does this affect the parking spots for Rusty Bucket? Did they have overflow parking specifically to this site?
So in that effect, there was initially a shared parking agreement between Tim Hortons and Rusty Bucket because they had essentially different peak hours. And so in order to do that, because this has indoor parking entirely for our site, we could no longer count that towards the shared parking. So we had to do some kind of alterations on the whole parking lot and just prove that Rusty Bucket could meet its parking minimum as well as our, yes, so they required, I believe, 80 spaces, and we were able to still do that with our indoor spaces, not counting towards that total.
Okay, because again, I know sometimes Rusty Bucket is a well-traveled establishment, people like it, and currently you
That's
see
a good
some
question.
overflow going over there,
Yeah.
which is great. So now that will not be the case because that's being used for the drive-through portion of it. So I'm in favor of it. The township only has really, I think, 1 car wash currently, so having another one would be great. I need to get my car washed a lot, so I'll be definitely attending this place, so thank you very much.
Any other comments?
Mark, you got anything?
Yes, did the traffic study include exiting the facility?
Yes,
Because
actually.
I noticed you have to cross over the people entering to exit.
Yeah, that was actually a concern that Fishbeck brought up, and then in order to follow up with that and ease their concerns with that, we provided a sort of more in-depth signage in that area directionally. We've got quite a bit of signage as far as that. And people leaving the tunnel generally go inside to get their cars vacuumed first. We find over 75% of the people using the vacuums do so after going through the tunnel. So at that point, it becomes quite a bit easier from there where they come out. Fishbeck was able to be satisfied that there wouldn't be any sort of detrimental traffic flow through the exhibit we provided.
So they enter and exit the cleaning area from the same side that the cars exit?
The front,
yes.
Correct. And one of the traffic management items that the car wash identified in their traffic management was to yield, the people coming out of the car wash will get a yield sign. So that they have to yield, was it the yield sign?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they'll understand when they come out of the car wash portion that they have to yield for any potential traffic of people coming in and out of the vacuum. So adding the yield sign as well as having additional directional signage in that area, that was the area that they wanted to make sure that there was not any issues moving forward, and they were satisfied with the information, the traffic management that was provided by the applicant.
And it doesn't show up on the rendering as well. There was a stop sign added to the point where cars would be crossing over in front of the stacking lane entrance to prevent them from stacking, blocking that off if they were waiting to take a left out to
Like here,
Square Lake anywhere.
a stop sign here.
Yep.
My main concern is here. This area here.
So
We have a car wash next to where I live, and we'll get 3 cars stacked on a street that's not as busy as Telegraph. And is there enough room?
So that's the exit to the tunnel?
Correct.
Yeah.
So if people are entering in and out and you've got 3 cars stacked, do you have enough room to still get onto Telegraph? And we're talking South Boulevard, which is not as busy as that road is.
Where are you referring to the 3 cars being stacked, just so we understand?
You're on the wrong street.
As they're exiting the car wash here.
Yeah, there would be no reason for them to stop at that point. They would either enter the vacuum area if they wanted to use that, or they would head straight out to Square Lake.
Exit
Yes.
up top where you have more congestion, and then they'd be backed up because of the traffic on Square Lake. And there's always a ton of traffic there, and every time I would leave the CVS on the Square Lake, sometimes I'd have to wait 3-4 minutes.
But understood. I think the queuing was clearly looked at in terms of not blocking that area, in the sense where they're providing enough stacking and queuing that the intention is that at no time will there be any congestion in that area.
And Andrea, if there is an issue with traffic, we would be working with the business and the developer in order to address it, because we're not going to have a negative impact. And obviously,
Absolutely.
he doesn't want to, this owner owns all that corner. He doesn't want a negative impact to his other businesses because of it. So I imagine they would be
Correct.
very fast and diligent in order for us to address that if that was a concern, I would imagine.
I have some questions. My concern is more on that, where the P1 zoning is.
Okay.
Is that wide enough to accommodate cars going in both directions?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Okay, because if you're coming off of Woodward, you're gonna go past the Rusty Bucket, drive through the parking lot, and then go into that P1 area, and then how do you make that turn to get into the queue for the car wash?
So the width of that drive is 26 feet, was needed for the fire lane, so that's actually wider than your standard parking lot drive aisle would be. We presented an exhibit to Fishbeck as well, because they had that same question. A small vehicle is able to make that 180 with no issue of jumping curbs or anything. A larger vehicle might have to enter the vac area and they would just use the vacuums first and turn around. We're a largely repeat customer and subscription-based use, so once they did that the first time, they would just know if they were coming in from Woodward, they'd just come in from the other side, come take the right onto Square Lake and enter in from that end.
And then if they wanted to go back onto Woodward, they would pass the queuing lane, and instead of making the left onto Square Lake, they would make the right and come back around, drive through the Rusty Bucket.
Yep.
And go back to Woodward.
Yep, go out on Woodward, turn either way. Yep, that's a 26-foot wide lane, so it's got plenty of room for two-way traffic.
Okay, and then my second question is about that corner there, which I think are like cones? Is that what that is, in the white there? When you make the turn in the queue lane to get to the pay stations? Nope. Up, right there.
Okay. That is our emergency bailout lane. We generally try to have that in case someone is either unable to pay or say it's a vehicle too tall to get through the tunnel for some reason that chose to enter in there. Instead of having every single person back out of the whole queue lane, we want to have a way to get them out.
Okay, so is that going to be set up with cones? Is that?
It is striped off, and there is a do not enter sign to prevent anyone from turning into that point.
So there's no physical cones.
No, there's no physical barrier. I mean, employees would certainly have the option to do that if it did become an issue of people trying to cut in there. And our stacking is generally only 6 to 8 cars at 95th percentile occupancy. So most of the time that is open. You wouldn't see issues of people trying to jump in front of stacked cars if they were to do that. But if it did become a problem, the employees would be able to block that off with cones. Yeah.
Okay.
It's intended as an emergency bailout. Almost never going to see any use.
And it's interesting that you said that people vacuum after.
Yes.
I feel like that's reverse.
Yes.
I mean, expresses.
I'm surprised. I trust your data, but that's just, it doesn't.
I know, yeah,
I know, I just.
Counterintuitive.
Well, but your competition does the vacuum first.
Yeah, it's, they've got 100 locations now all through the Midwest, and that's the data they come back with.
I'd like to touch and feel after the car wash. You get the drops off, maybe a few drops here and there. Crimp your car a little bit. It's kind of strange. That's what people do.
Okay.
I'm good.
But there's nothing that they can't vacuum first if they want.
No,
There's
they're allowed to do that.
Yeah, it's optional. So you can go and vacuum first?
Yes.
Yeah, you can.
Vacuum and leave.
Oh, vacuum and leave, huh?
Any other questions?
And this is the,
Now make a motion.
of all the,
I'll make a motion that we approve as presented with the considerations that have been presented for approval.
Support.
Any more comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Say
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
No? One no.
No.
Thank you. Okay.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 13, consider reappointments to the Planning Commission, Zoning Board of Appeals, International Property Maintenance Code Board of Appeals, Electrical Examining and Appeals Board, and the Construction Code Board of Appeals, presented by Patti. Hi, Patti.
Hello, hello. So every December, we're here before you to seek appointments or reappointments, in many cases, most cases, to the boards and commissions that the Planning, Building, and Ordinance Department is responsible for administering to. We've provided you with those who have tenure, have expired or will expire on the first of the year. And so what we've provided with you is a report that identifies the terms for the Zoning Board of Appeals. Jocelyn Giagrande and Scott Gittleman are up for reappointment. Their term would expire, because they're 3-year terms, would be January 1st, 2028. We do have a vacancy for a trustee representative, and we have notation of consideration of trustee Chris Kalinsky for that vacancy. And then lastly, as you know, we do have an alternate vacancy, which I believe is part of the board's discussion coming up, having to do with the appointment because of Jake Barnett having to resign because he moved out of the township's boundaries. And that is a appointment that is made by the township board. For the Planning Commission, in a similar way, these are 3-year terms. They're expiring in 2028. And we have Bruce Selleck and Jeff Sauls, who have agreed to continue to serve at the pleasure of the township board. And now for those following 3 boards, these are boards that upon application, we would then convene a board for consideration of an appeal before the Construction Code Board of Appeals, the Electrical Examining and Appeals Board, or the International Property Maintenance Code Board of Appeals. I can share with you that for the Construction Code Board of Appeals, we had 2 applications in 2004, and we had 1 application in 2010, and that's the last time that the board has met. So we do want to make sure that we do have the opportunity to have a board ready should that occasion occur. So Ron White has agreed to continue to serve as needed, as well as Michael Roncelli. Those names you're going to see familiar with the Electoral Examining and Appeals Board. Ron White, as well as Michael Roncelli, have also been appointed to those and are willing to serve again. And for benefit, for the last 22 years, that Electrical Examining Board has never convened since I've been with the township. So
But there's always a chance.
there could always be an opportunity, but let's knock on wood. And in that instance, we also have, because of, in contacting Michael Mooney, he would like to retire from the Electoral Examining Board and the International Property Maintenance Board of Appeals. So we have sought a master electrician who would be interested in serving in that capacity, again, as needed. And his resume was attached for your consideration this evening. And in reference to the International Property Maintenance Code, we had 4 appeals in 2010, 1 in 2016, 1 in 2017, and 1 in 2021, and haven't had one since. So again, I mentioned that those 3 are only as needed. So I'll be happy to answer any questions, but we're looking for the board to reappoint and appoint as needed those names that are being presented before you tonight. And I believe the board will be then taking separate action on filling that vacancy for the alternate zoning board of appeals member following the conclusion of this presentation.
Okay, any comments?
I have one question. And it's probably for Dirk. The trustee representative from the board, is that also a 3-year term? Or is
That would run, it runs with the term of the trustee.
Okay, so just from here, that's under the title of all 3-year terms, so just, if we do a motion, we just probably have to carve that out, if it's Kalinsky, that would be a 4-year term, not a 3-year term. The others are 3-year terms.
It runs consistent with the term of the trustee, so.
However long that is.
However long that is, right.
And just as reference, the former trustee expired January 1st, 2026. So if the board wants to continue, to fill that position, or just as you so stated, and
Oh, I
define
see.
it within a 3-year term.
So Stephanie's term ran till 26.
Correct.
It's concurrent with, as Dirk was saying, it's concurrent with their term as
Yeah,
trustee.
should be.
She's no longer a trustee, her term
Yeah.
ends.
What Dirk said makes perfect sense, because if you come on the board like Chris did, last year, midstream, then Michael's one position that was a trustee position, he gave up because he wasn't a trustee, and Chris took a partial year. I mean, it kind of has to go with who's the trustee.
It does, it does. We researched the issue before the meeting, so.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense, Dirk.
I think Martin actually asked the question, I think, last week, so.
Any other questions or comments?
Do we need a separate motion?
No, you can do them all in one motion. However, if anybody objects to anything, they're going to have to parse them apart. But you can try one motion for all of them.
Okay, well,
for it, Val.
I'm going to make a motion that we approve the recommendations and renewals of the multiple boards per Patty's presentation, and in addition, approve Chris Kalinsky as the new member of the ZBA.
Support?
I'll support.
Any comments, questions? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it passes. Nice job. Congratulations there, Trustee Kalinsky.
Thank you.
Okay, number 14, consider appointment to the vacant alternate zoning board of appeals position presented by Patti Voelker. Oh, hi, Patti.
Hi again.
Welcome back.
So we were very fortunate in having very well-qualified candidates who are residents who are considered, who wanted to be considered for the vacant position. This is an alternate position, meaning that the member would be called as needed should a sitting regular member not be available. And we do have a vacancy, again, as I said before, because of Jake Barnett moving out of the township and not being eligible then to serve on the ZBA. We had Karen Amick, Joseph Buick, Carolyn, Noble, Bob Taylor, and Karza.
Sarah, actually, Sarah.
Oh, Sarah. Oh, beautiful. Sarah Venegas.
Yes. Yeah.
Venegas submit their cover letter and their resumes for your consideration. This is a position that the Township Board is appointed, or is provides a appointment to this position, and so I look to the Township Board to make your selection to fill this vacancy on the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Anybody like to make any comments or suggestions?
Can I give my comment first, if you don't mind, Neil?
Go ahead.
So I had the pleasure of talking with Sarah prior to the meeting to kind of get a background on her. She has applied to other things in the township and wants to get involved. With recently for her, she has been provided possibly a job offer that may make her move out of the area for a short period of time. So while she wants to get involved and continue to help out this community, she knows that right now this might not be the best time where she can provide all the at-will time for this alternate position. So she had said that she would like to remove herself from consideration, but she hopes that there will be another board opportunity when she's able to give that time. But again, as a township board, we're looking for people that want to get involved, and we're lucky that we have 4 or 5 candidates that want to be involved. We need to keep having people that want to be and give that knowledge to us, just like I think Mr. Buick here, or Mr. Bob Taylor, who has, I think, 20 or 21 years of experience in the ZBA prior to resigning to take care of his wife. So we're lucky that we have people like this that want to be invested in the township, and we're lucky that we have people that have so much experience.
Well, she would have made a great candidate because we met her when we were choosing Chris Kalinsky. She applied for that and came in and actually spoke with us.
Yeah, she has a great background, but again, in this role, we do have some other people that have some amazing background as well, but again, she would want to be removed from consideration at this time.
And I was really impressed by all the people who applied. We had some great people, and anyone who is not selected, I would certainly recommend that they stay involved, try and stay in touch with the township and get involved with the township, because as Chris mentioned, certainly there are opportunities and will be additional opportunities for anyone who's not selected. I must say I was very much surprised and pleased to see that our former chairperson of the ZBA applied, and as Chris mentioned, he had to previously remove himself from the ZBA because of taking care of his wife. With that said, Bob Taylor has been on the ZBA 21, 22 years. He was our former chairperson. There is nobody who knows the Zoning Board of Appeals better than Bob Taylor, and somebody I've always looked to as someone who knows it inside and out, and he's always very pleasant but very direct, and knows how to work with people, but also knows how to make sure that our ordinances are enforced. So with that said, I don't see the need, or although there are other good people, to consider anybody other than Bob Taylor. Certainly would like to hear what other people have to say, but he is by far the best person in the township. I mean, he'd be the best person if he was on the ZBA right now, but I certainly would consider him as the best as an alternate for now.
So you make a motion to recommend
Want to
Bob
see if there's
Taylor?
anyone else who hasn't.
And again, when we look at our board, he has a real estate background. Again, he's been doing real estate for years.
He's the head of real estate for.
He's the head of real estate for the Grosse Pointe office.
Right.
He was on our board of, I think he's on, the tax review board.
He is.
And he was the chairman for that for a while. So he has intimate knowledge of our township that you can't easily replace. So I was as surprised and excited that he was willing to put his name back in, because that means that he can continue to give back that knowledge to the township. So.
Okay, would like to make a motion that we select Bob Taylor as our alternate member of the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Support.
Support. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, passes. All right. And then, item number 15, consider approval of the 2025 Board of Trustees regular meeting schedule presented by Martin Brook, our township clerk.
Yes, sir. It's in the packet. Any questions?
I'd like to make a motion
Make a motion.
to support the meeting as in the packet.
Support.
Support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it passes. And number 16, approval of payroll vouchers for December the 9th. Motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve.
I would like to make a couple comments. First, I want to thank Mike for getting the response on the ETFs for the employment. Mr. Tice was very clear that the information in detail is available. It's not being made available to the residents. I do think that's inappropriate because you're pulling money from different buckets. We have multiple numbers associated with that. I don't see any reason why that detail should not be in the voucher and payroll. I also noticed that the amount went up considerably. Wanted to understand why. Is there anything residents should be aware of why it jumped about 650,000?
What number went up? What line item?
The employment, check numbers 184050-541. There's only one item that's related to
mean payroll?
ETFs, payroll.
Why it went up?
$650,000 from the previous payroll and vouchers.
I believe that's because this payroll included the longevity payments.
Okay, and how many?
I don't know that for sure, but I believe that that is the case.
I believe that's the case too.
And on a smaller
Yes.
scale, all the election workers, not that that was going to come up.
They're
tonight.
not on.
Election workers don't get
they're
paid
not
on
in there.
payroll.
That was the separate line item that had it. We had that for last time.
Last time.
No, I think.
I
that
believe
might
it's
go
the
through.
longevity payments.
And during the presentation, they said not everyone was on longevity.
Correct.
How many employees are still on, do we know?
I'd be happy to get you that number tomorrow.
It's the ones really that started before 2009.
Okay. And I also wanted to highlight how the DTE payment, check number 71856, it's broken down, as well as the Orkin has details for multiple areas. So I see no reason why the larger payment should not have those same details. My last question is on the Verizon check. It says various departments. That's check number 184653. Is that a central services fee? Because I've never seen the various departments before.
It gets charged, it gets allocated to various departments. It wouldn't be considered part of the central services fee, no.
Okay, thanks.
Mark, if we didn't answer one of your questions, will you email it to me again and so I can dig in for you?
No, the questions were answered.
You're good with them?
I don't think we're doing the payroll appropriately.
Okay.
We have multiple ETFs associated with that.
Okay.
Jason has the details, and both the clerk.
What do you mean by ETF?
It's on page 8. I circled it.
Oh, EFT.
EFT.
Yes,
So-
okay.
So we have multiple numbers listed there. The cash coming out of those accounts have to be coming from specific accounts.
That's because each employee gets their own EFT. That's why those numbers are like that. Every employee gets their own transfer.
Correct.
Why would we provide detail on each individual employee? I think that would be inappropriate for us to show
I would
salaries.
like to, I think the reason why you want to, not on the employees, but at the department level, because you have revenue streams coming from public safety, you have revenue streams coming from building inspection, you have revenue streams coming from water and sewer, you have also building
Right.
inspection.
So you want to see a roll
All the employee costs are allocated by department. Each employee is allocated to.
I have no idea.
Okay, we
it-
can talk about that and get you what.
That's number one. Number two, when I actually look at the quarterly reports, let's see, I wrote down some notes. When you look at the quarterly reports, so in the quarterly report from September 30th, public safety was overdrawn by over 19 million, and their fund reserves on March 31 were 14 million.
Okay.
So there's a deficit there, and that's not called out. We don't see the transfers coming in from
the transfer from the general fund to the public safety fund is done at the end of the fiscal year. So for the entire fiscal year, the public safety fund runs at a deficit, and then the transfer that is budgeted gets made by the general fund at the end of the fiscal year. So at the end of the fiscal year, it finishes in the black. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I'm not disputing that. What I am disputing is the numbers there's not enough money in the account based on what's in the quarterly reports. And we're showing no transfers. You can make the changes along the way at the end, I don't mind that, but there should be money appropriate to cover those expenses that are coming from public safety and the road fund. And it's clear that the cash is not there. Whether it's a temporary transfer or a full transfer, it shouldn't matter. But what it does matter is how much money is in the fund, and do we have enough spread out between all the funds to accommodate the expenses until we collect our revenue during tax season. And that is definitely not highlighted in any of the quarterly reports.
Okay, I understand what you're saying.
Well, let me add just one quick thing, is I have no concerns about any of the items that are in the payroll and vouchers, and to the extent that I have questions, I mean, the township staff's at your disposal to ask these questions in advance. You're welcome to, call Michael, call me, call Jason. We're here to answer those questions.
Again, Jason said that, yes, it's done by the department, but we don't have that department level detail. And
right, so your request is to report this differently.
Correct. I think the residents should know what's coming from out of public safety and what's coming out of the various funds based on the tax revenue stream. And that's how we approve the budgets as well.
But we do approve the budgets that way, and it's audited by our auditors, and a third-party audit says that this is okay and it meets above board and all the different laws that they are. So all we're doing is saying, I trust that our CPA who's writing his name on the line and putting all of his, making sure this all appropriately matches, and then at the end of the year when we get the summary, it does show us that allocation.
We had the UHY report, and Water and Sewer had 20 million at the beginning of the year, had 20 million at the end of the year, and $6,000 of investment income.
Correct.
And that is a concern for me, because I'll tell you what, if that cash is in the bank and making 4%, we should have gotten more than $6,000 for water and sewer.
That's a very easy question you could have asked us, or me specifically. All of the interest from all of the cash that the township holds goes into the general fund.
And I think that's inappropriate for water and
That's
sewer.
the state law.
Because we had asked that based on some of your questions.
It's in the state law.
So what portion of the state law?
I can send it to you.
Okay,
I think it's
thank
page
you.
20, but I'll double check.
If there's no other comments, I'd like to make a motion to approve payroll and vouchers as presented.
Support.
Support, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
It passes 6-1. Okay, and now we move for an adjournment.
I move
All
to
in
adjourn.
favor? All in favor, say
Support.
aye.
Aye.
Aye. Adjourned, thank you.